Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of the Juggernaut Bolt Action Podcast. I am here with Topher.
Hello.
I'm here with Pete.
Hello.
And guess who's back? Back from flaking. Sheffield's back. Say hello, Sheffield.
Hello, I am back from flaking. The real Slim Shady. Sheffy. Slim Sheffy, I missed the joke.
Useless twat.
Would you like
Slim Sheffy?
Would you like to apologise to our dear listeners, one, for your missed opportunity of good punnage, but also for your just flakiness?
If you're missing puns now, there is literally no reason to have you on the show.
I
have
am
one
deeply
job.
ashamed.
One job.
I'm very pleased to be back. Listeners, dear listeners, I am very sorry that I flaked. I'm not at all sorry about the puns, though, because I'm confident I can make that up to you this episode. I'm beginning to feel like a rap god. There you go. There's another Eminem reference.
Do we want him back?
I don't know.
I mean, I did put that call out to have a new guest, like a new host. Shall we follow through with that?
I think we need to. We'll definitely hold interviews at some point.
I'll tell you what, we'll see. You're on probation, Sheffy. Let's see how this goes.
Okay,
This episode goes, and we'll let you know.
Okay.
Anyway, how's everyone been?
We've been abroad, mate. That's where we've been.
I've been to a weird country.
We all went to Poland, except Sheffield.
Yeah.
And we all rolled dice, except Sheffield. And we all had fun, except Sheffield.
And you all had suspiciously sexy encounters with cheese and waitresses.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. See, I know some things.
It wasn't
It
suspicious.
was her job. It was her job.
Did I post a picture of those burgers on the Juggernaut page, or was it my own page? Does anyone remember?
I think it was
You did it on the
Juggernaut
page.
page.
Yeah.
Okay. All I can say, gentlemen and listeners across the world, is if you ever go to Poland, go to a chain pub called Whiskey in the Jar and get for their cheeseburger special. And don't worry, the lady will pour the cheese on the burger for you. Don't worry, it was her job. And she had much delight in telling us that.
Directly at you. In the eyes while pouring that cheese.
You go to pick up the cheese jug and she's like, no, I'll do it for you. It is my job. And then she just she almost licks it. Well, I can't do accents, but she's just licking her lips as she poured the cheese all over that burger. It's the most seductively sensual thing ever.
I had some special sauce.
My missus listens to that, so nothing of the sort happened.
Well, I was sharing a room with Dan, and I had some special sauce.
Does she really listen to this?
Yeah, every episode.
Oh, my deepest sympathies.
Right, we're getting sidetracked. So, what we've been up to, new things coming on. We've all brought our tickets, except Sheffield, for the British Bolt Action League Round 2. Sheffield, are you going to come with us? No.
Is that the thing in Stockport?
Yes.
It is.
Maybe.
Ooh, hello.
That's code word for no.
Yeah, that sounds... You know when my wife says maybe, that means it's a no. So I'm assuming it's that. But yeah, we're all ready. Round 2. It's the same pack as round 1, isn't it? Which is just one platoon, turn up, kick face.
Yeah, I don't know if they're implementing the no theatre books for this one. I haven't seen.
There's been a lot of changes with Warlord, hasn't there, since the original BBAL pack was released.
We'll cover the errata later, but some significant changes.
We have lots to say about that FAQ and errata.
I have many strong opinions.
Not all of them are racist.
Good. Yeah.
Can I just say though, like to preemptively talk about the fact, is why did they release it? Like release it, but then not release it. They weren't like, hey, you guys can have the pack, but not those guys. Why wouldn't you just release the pack?
I don't know.
I
think they wanted to. They wanted to almost proofread it, didn't they?
Yeah, but they didn't change anything.
Can I say? I think that it was done sort of without actual consent. Because did you see that when I posted an image from it on the Bolt Action community, 2 of the North American Warlord reps, like a blank face or a blank line, as if it was completely news to them that this had been leaked and they were annoyed about it and just didn't say anything at all. So I have a sneaking suspicion that they weren't meant to have made it public.
I think
some people were a bit naughty.
I think it was meant to have gone to like the tournament organisers they work with, because obviously they work with a few, don't they, with helping to write the theatre books and stuff. So I think they released it to them for approval, and one or two of them put a couple of images out, and then a page, and then the whole thing, and then it was just kind of, oh shit, it's already out there. We've got no choice.
Once it's out. What do you have to gain by hiding it?
Yeah, true.
They could rewrite it.
Well, they blatantly wouldn't.
All it does is point to the fact that it's just a vacuously thin, pathetic document. No, we're jumping the gun. Later.
Okay, this is quite a short intro because this is going to be an absolute monster episode of World Team Championship proportions, because we've got an awful lot to cover. So this intro may be pretty quick, but shall we jump straight in with the after-action report for the World Team Championship?
Yeah.
Sit down, listeners. You're in for a lot of painting time.
Put your feet up. Get kettle on. Yeah, guys, get kettle on.
Check.
Yeah. Get yourself a snack. You know, you don't want to be disturbed halfway through. Yeah, you're good. Snack. You might want to go for a wee as well first.
I don't need to wee.
Yeah, and if you're at work, put your phone on mute.
Oh no, put it on really loud. It'd be a laugh.
Well, either way, just don't be disturbed. You need a good, solid WTC bonded time now.
If you need to avoid people at work, we've got the answer.
Boom. Right, ready to go?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So guys, the Bolt Action World Team Championships. This is the first one ever done. There's been an awful lot of work. This has been in progress for 4 years, I think. Mr. Walker's been trying to put this together, and the first one has been and gone, and we attended. So we're going to review it. How much fun did we all have, guys?
I had great fun.
Yeah. In terms of meeting new people and having a good experience, absolutely fantastic. Can't fault it.
I thought it was a heaping pile of turd.
Is that because you couldn't come because your family don't like you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think I've had more fun at the World Team Championships than I had at any Bolt Action tournament, and that says a lot. Because despite a lot about what we're going to talk about, did it run smoothly? Can we at least say that? There was a lot of issues.
It was on schedule. Let's just say
at
that.
least on schedule.
I mean, with a tournament this size, when you're trying to get, because it was linked to the Middle Earth World Team Championships. Yes, those people were here as well, precious. Yes, the World Team Championship.
What you're on about there, Topher?
Just for a second, I thought you slipped back into Mexican.
Okay, Middle Earth people were there. They were having their own World Team Championship. And it was done by the same organisers. Dave managed both of them. So just the calamity of getting so many people from so many countries to get to the same place and play complicated games with stupid packs, it did not necessarily go well. So let's preface this by saying this. I think that, spoiler alert, they're probably going to get the lowest score we've ever given.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not worth going to.
They should see this as it was definitely a first time for the Bolt Action, and I think the Middle Earth one ran a lot smoother than the Bolt Action one. And this is more of it was a first try, this is what we'd improve next time. And I think they will do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all definitely want to go back next year.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we know that one of the organisers, Paul, listens to our pod, and he loves the pod. Hello, Paul. So he will definitely take what we've got to say and run with it, because he values our opinion quite a lot. So
God knows why.
I don't.
Yeah, it's God knows why. So yeah, we've been working on it for 4 years, and the idea is that each country sends a representative team of 4 players to one central tournament, and then much like a World Cup, each team competes in a team championship to place highest in the league, and then you eventually have one winner who you crown the top country in Bolt Action. So this year, Spain won.
Woo!
Woo!
Nice.
Woo!
Congrats, Spain!
Good
Vive
job,
la
guys.
España!
Yeah, they were really nice guys, actually. We actually
yeah,
played them
wonderful.
as well, and that was one of the more fun rounds, I think, playing those guys. So and they didn't smash us too hard.
And we travelled back with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were on the same flight as us, even though we were going to England and they were going to Spain, because it was easier for them to get a flight to England and then back to Spain because. Nah.
I mean, it made the trophies a little awkward. Let's be honest.
Yeah, so that's lots more. Yeah, because the trophies were tank shells, weren't they?
Get this through airport security, I dare you.
Get them through customs.
Yeah.
Luckily, they were resin, so they wouldn't have shown up as a proper.
Didn't they have some issue in Poland?
No, I think they got through Poland fine. They were just worried about not being able to get through England because they're a bit more diligent.
Yeah, far more diligent in UK.
Diligent is very generous.
Yeah, we didn't see anything on the news about Spaniards trying to smuggle war shells out of the country, so I think they got out okay.
So anyway, 3 members of this podcast were a part of the England team. So me, Dan, and Pete all went, as well as our mutual friend Brad. I think the stories of how the teams are the way the teams are set up is obviously how each country managed to send a team. Is that when a couple of years ago when Paul said, "I'm trying to plan a world championship. If you want to send a team, contact me." And then those who contacted him got put into a group called the representatives page, and it was their job to gather support, gather the teams, make one of them a captain, and send them off. And when I first saw this, I was really excited. I was like, "Oh my god, I want to go and compete!" So I specifically didn't contact about wanting to form a team. So I thought I already have enough shit on my plate at being the bolt action devil of bolt action and being the most hated man ever. I didn't want to add this to my plate of forming the England team for the World Team Championship.
Didn't want to.
Well, so I got a message from Paul. Paul specifically rang me up and was like, Toph, I need your help. I was like, come on, Paul, what's wrong? No one else from England had contacted him at all. And he says, we need you to form the England team, otherwise England aren't going to have a team.
Can't have that. England have got to have a team.
And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, all right, well, I'll see if one of my mates wants to do it. I know a lot of bolt action players. Did one of you ever want to sort it out? Did you fuck? No.
Yeah, but you got to remember that I wasn't very good at bolt action back then, so I didn't want to do it because I thought I was shit.
Yep. Whatever.
Yeah, all right. Not very good. I'm shit at bolt action. Wins tournaments.
Yeah.
So anyway, so just to help Paul out, and as a kind of an emergency, fine, I'll form the England team. It's fine. So then was in having lots of meetings, and with Paul and Dave, how do you form a team? And effectively, the rule is the representatives from each country can form their team however they want. So some countries would just go, you guys are the best guys, you guys come here. Other countries would go, oh, you're all my mates, you can come. Other countries would have elaborate league and tournament systems to get qualifiers, and it was up to each country how they did it, and the organisers weren't bothered. It's just as long as your country does it, it's fine. Now immediately I was like, I don't just want to pick my mates, because if I just pick my mates, everyone will win. Yeah, fucking Toph's just gonna pick his mates.
You upgrade yourself from the devil of bolt action to the devil of everything.
So precisely, and it's not a world team championship if you just pick your mates. You want the best people in the country. So what I did is I put some feelers out, and I put some posts on the bolt action group and just said, if you want to represent England, come and inquire within. And I made an absolute elaborate Excel spreadsheet of the most spreadsheety mathematical goodness ever. Even good for my maths, it was brilliant.
I was about to say, yeah, well done.
Yeah, we actually got a mathematician to check his maths.
And the basic idea was you'd input your tournament results in there. How big a tournament you played in over the course of a year, where your placing was, how many people you had to beat to get there, and it would spit out a number for each tournament. And then we'll just take the top 3 tournament placings for every person who applied throughout the year, and then the top 4 get to go on the team. Really mathy, really open, cool, it's fine. A lot of people weren't particularly happy about the opening because they wanted the GT to be included in that in terms of which tournaments were valid. So I stretched it out for that one. Yeah, great. And then once the results came in, I was like, cool, everyone's tournaments, who wants to apply? And not a single.
Tumbleweeds, mate. I've never seen tumbleweeds in the UK.
I know. I mean, so the only 3 people who'd put their scores in and had actually, with high scores, overall points, who would have qualified was you guys.
Oh yeah.
Friend. So in the end,
even
in the end, I didn't want to pick my mates. It turned out I had to pick my mates.
Well, we had no choice
when we
going
finished,
out.
when we finished first, second, and 10th in the GT, there's not many players that are A, better than us, and B, want to go. So
it's true.
I mean, me and you qualified legitimately. Pete would have been in the top 2 or 3 to fill the next gap anyway, and then Brad was just the dregs.
So yeah, me, Pete and Dan filled very nicely, and then we needed the fourth player, and that hunt for the fourth player was an absolute nightmare. Couldn't find anybody
2
until
months
the
we
end.
were asking around.
Asked every bolt action player I could think of who I knew was interested in competitive play.
They even asked me.
I even asked Sheffy, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to have fun." But he couldn't
you
do
do one tournament a year. Hold on. No, it's still I can't do it.
We even stretched to the flakiest of flakes, Luke, and that's really scraping the barrel.
He decided to go to Africa for a religious trip instead. What the fuck's up with that?
I went to see the rains
idiot.
down in Africa.
I know. He got all his Toto on, and not his Poland on. Whatever. So in the end, we asked our mutual friend Brad, who this was his first ever bolt action tournament. That's how desperate we got as an England team.
To be fair, it wasn't just you're good at bolt action. Can you come? It's like, oh yeah, oh no, wait, I can't because of this event here, or I'm doing something here, or I can't make it. And a lot of people were just there like, I can't because of this thing here. And we ended up going, you know what? Brad hasn't really got a life, so that'll do.
I think it's a big.
Are you throwing those stones, Pete?
I am throwing those stones.
I think it's a big ask as well to ask someone, hey, do you want to spend a couple of £100, get on a plane with a bunch of strangers and go to a country with a bunch of strangers and roll dice? If you don't know them, like, it's obviously easy for us guys because we all know each other, and a lot of the other competitive guys in England, I know a lot of them very well because I see them every other month or so. But some people who might have been interested would have gone, what, just get on a plane with 3 Juggernauts and just fly to Poland? Maybe not. So I can kind of see it. But I think we did a good job at representing the England competitive scene as a whole, if nothing else.
Well, we didn't get
bit of column A, bit of column B. We had the new and the old in terms of blood.
For yourself, I got smashed all weekend.
Well, you did. You were the whipping boy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fine. So yeah, overall, that's how the team was formed. So shall we get into the full pack?
Yeah, there we go. What do we
Rules
start
pack.
with?
Who wants to launch?
I will.
Oh.
Ready? 1, 2. Fucking pack! Oh, sorry. Fucking packs! Multiple. So, what they did, they had a very brilliant little system where they put one pack on the Middle Earth page, and then they released a second completely unidentical pack on the Facebook page. And those 2 packs had different rules for how to build your team's armies. So one of them allowed you more special choices, so an extra tank or theatre selector than the other one did. Now, we read the Facebook one because that's how we've done the communication all the way through so far. Since day dot, it was, let's have a look at the Facebook group. We added Tove to the Facebook group as representative. Everything was on there. So when it comes to the day of the tournament, when it comes to a week before the tournament and all the lists were sent out, half the teams had got 3 special selectors and 1 generic, and half of the teams have got 2 special selectors and 2 generic. And we were like, what the fuck's going on? Half of these armies are illegal. Half of these countries' forces have got too many special ones. And then when we emailed in to ask about it, they went, oh, no, this is the real pack on the Middle Earth page here, which allows you 3 selectors, and we hadn't seen that. So we were already screwed over before we even started because we'd looked at the wrong pack that they had submitted to the right group, if you know what I mean.
I mean, we weren't the only team that got that as well. There was a couple.
No, there was about 5 or 6 of them out of the 12 that had done that.
Was there a correlation between that and final results? That's the question.
Yes, there is. So Spain won, and they had 3 specials. They had a tank, a theatre, and a double. Germany were up there, and they had a tank, a theatre, and a double. Poland were up there, and they had a tank, a theatre, and a double. French had 3 as well, and they were top half.
What's that? 1, 3, 4, and 5 positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is quite heavy.
That's 1, 2, 3, and 5, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it was compounded. So as I say, that there was 2 packs which had conflicting rules on how you would build your army, which meant some teams were bringing more special platoons than the others, because there was supposed to be a limit on how many theatre selection and tank percentages you took. One half the side got told one number, the other side got told another number. The problem is that come list submission was it was a month before.
Yeah, and then they were opened up to the public a week before the event, weren't they?
Yeah. So that was 3 weeks of lost time basically, and then 1 week beforehand they all came out in the open. And everyone then just lost their freaking minds. Oh my god, what's going on? They're doing it wrong. They're doing it wrong. Every team's accusing every other team of cheating. A lot of the lists had mistakes in them, like they'd spent the wrong points on a certain unit, or I don't know, they'd missed out bringing the odd transport in an armor sector. Those kind of mistakes.
And that's purely because they hadn't left the notes that had come in with the lists on the document.
And also, they'd only given Craig, one of the tournament judges, they'd only given him 24 hours to mark the lists.
Harsh.
He'd only had 24 hours to go through 48 lists and make sure they're all correct, and that was it.
And the guy's got a day job,
Yeah. I think it was very much like on a Saturday night. Hey mate, can you get these done by Monday?
Yeah.
It was one of those sort of jobs. So. No wonder there's errors. I wouldn't have been able to check those accuracy. But the problem is because they were only published a week beforehand, then you'd say, seriously, mate, there's errors here. And all the organizer could do was go, well, they're in now. Deal with it.
That's what annoyed me the most, is they could have gone, oh shit, yeah, we've made a mistake. Anyone who wants to resubmit a list by the end of the weekend to include a third special, by all means do it. If you miss that boat, tough shit.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They just said, well, we've made the mistake. It's our fault, but you have to deal with it now. And all lists are final. So suck it up.
I don't think it's not mistakes happen. And I think we're all able to go, you know what, fucking mistakes happen. It's when there's a refusal to fix the mistakes that people get really upset, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
Because when you see people who've literally taken illegal lists into a tournament and they know they're illegal lists, and the tournament organisers know they're illegal lists, and everyone knows it, but then why is it?
And then they get to use them, and they're like, well, hang on, you're getting all this bonus, and what? Hang on.
Yeah. So the Spanish team, when we played those, for instance, they had a tank, a double, and a theatre, and the guy I played, Akile, had a generic list, but his generic list was actually a Panzer 150 brigade, whatever it is, with all the special rules that you can't shoot half of it because it's all line sats. So unless it's really close, you can't shoot it. And when I tried to question it, it was like, well, I know it's a theatre, but it's counted as a generic and it's a legal list now because we're 4 games in. So tough shit, deal with it. And that really got my goat up. So I decided to smash his face. Well, I smashed his face in just as retribution. So.
Oh yeah. See, it's difficult because I'm coming into the interviewy bit, like the recap, having not been there, prepared to be the devil's advocate to try and say, actually, I think you're being really unfair. But on this, I really don't think you are. I think that's so major and so fundamental. It's just.
It gets worse, don't worry.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it does. But I can just it's not the making a mistake, which is just annoying, but it's not a hard mistake to fix. Yeah, fine, you'll make some people annoyed, but
the people that are going to the WTC, they're going to be avid players. They're going to be avid collectors. They're going to have
competitive people. They're going to play by the exact letter of the rule.
Well, you're going to have. I mean, me personally, I have 3 armies. Pete has probably 3 or 4 different armies.
He doesn't. He has one Japanese army.
I have
3 or 4 variants, but it could have easily been rectified by you can change your lists within the next couple of days and then bring it with you. But they didn't, and that would have just made everything better instantly, because everyone's going to have a spare army that they can bring, or they would have had extra models that they could change it around a little bit, but it just screwed everyone over.
So yeah, so from that list perspective, there's a bit of ambiguity as what you couldn't take. Other rules pack issues. So I think the points were weird.
Yeah.
In how teams scored points. So it was 0 points for a major loss. What was it? Or was it 1 point for a major loss?
No, 0. 0 through 5.
So 0
through draw, sorry.
Yeah, 0 for major loss, 1 for minor loss, 2 for a draw, 3 for a minor win, and 4 for a major win. And the way the matches would play is a team of 4 would play another team of 4, and then you just add up all the points of each round. So if one side got 2 major wins and 2 major losses, they'd both get 8 points.
Yep.
So, but then you'd have the weird things like, wasn't it France where we lost against them because they got, was it like they got 2 major wins when we only got 2 minor wins?
France was the third game of day one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And this was the game that screwed us. So second game. So
Yeah.
they'd ruled it as when you decide who wins, if it's say, sectors or whatever, the mission points dictates whether you've won or lost. And then the kill points different. So the dice killed for you and the dice killed for your opponent is decide what becomes a major and a minor. So if you got double the kill points than your opponent did, so say you're in sectors and you win 20 points to 15, but you've killed 8 dice and they've killed 2, you're over double their points, and that's what turns your victory from a minor to a major.
Yeah.
And that's how it was game 1. And then game 2, they changed it. So in game 2, we had 2 major victories against France, and then we had a major and a minor loss. So we were winning that because we'd got 2 majors to their 1. And then at the end of that round, after we'd added up all the points, the TOs came round and said, sorry guys, this is how we're scoring it now. And they changed it to just overall victory points needed to be double, not just the dice. And that turned one of our major wins into a minor win. So we drew with France. And that seriously affected us for the rest of the tournament.
I've never seen Dan so mad. It's ridiculous.
I mean,
He flipped from chill to incensed.
I mean, it's one. So, that was basically. That kind of sums up the weekend in a whole, really, in that the rules pack would say one thing. Turns out in practice it said something else. It was always a bit wishy-washy. Everyone was playing it a little bit different. Just things like how the selection works or how you worked out which player from which team was playing who. There was a bit of like a poker kind of list drawing mechanic. And that never worked. First round we got screwed because I don't think we necessarily worked out how that worked correctly, which meant we couldn't quite work out who was to play which list. It was very much, it just wasn't written well in any sense, which meant that there was always this confusion. There was multiple captains meetings where all the team captains would get drawn in to talk to the organizer throughout the tournament going, yeah, we put this bit up, here's how.
Meetings.
Yeah,
emergency captains meetings.
There was one on Friday, wasn't there, before the tournament even began? There was one on Saturday, and then there was one halfway through Sunday.
Was that one halfway through Sunday?
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Because we were all in that bottom room, and we were all told to clear out whilst all the captains were in there.
Oh God! So, I mean, as I say, on the second captains meeting, when they decide to change how the tournament, well, I don't know if they decide to change, but let's say clarify how the victory points worked for each team. A lot of teams then suddenly had losses reverses to wins and wins reversed to draws, and everyone was a complete and utter anarchy as to what score there was, and they didn't post up results between rounds as well either, which meant you had no idea where your team had come.
And I guarantee they didn't retrospectively change the points from game 1, because that would have affected those as well.
Well, they say they checked everyone, but obviously we can't see because all we got was the final score at the end. So basically, the thing with a rules pack is, especially with an event as big and complicated as this one, is you want the pack to be as crystal fucking clear as possible so that on the day everyone knows exactly what's happening. And we just did not get that with this pack.
You just want a level playing field.
Yeah.
If everyone is singing off the same hymn sheet, and you turn up for a game and he completely stomps your face and you have to go home crying to your mum, tough shit. But if they've got an advantage by having a theatre selector extra in their army, and then the points are changed halfway through to change your win from a major to a minor, and that affects your whole team, that's just not on.
Especially as the game against France that the minor win was on. Brad got the minor loss. It turned to a major loss because of the point scoring. Purely for that, Brad had actually played to the pack and not lost his dice on purpose, and it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
But just to clarify that, how much of, like, obviously the stuff beforehand about the miscommunication with the pack and the lists and the illegality of that's definitely rules pack. How much of the faffing about at the tournament and the captains meetings is based on bad rules pack or is bad TOing? Because I know that we tend to assess the two things separately. I just want to know which.
I would say mostly rules pack, because the problems were derided from when two people would read the two different rule packs and have two different decision, like 2 different ideas, if that makes sense. If the rules pack was correct from the beginning, you would have had crystal clear because you've gone, how does this work? Check the book, done.
Yeah.
Again, I presume it's not that there's no language issue in this. I presume the tournament ran in English.
Yeah, everything was English.
I mean, if nothing else, I'd actually praise them for being. At least the moment they saw the problem with the victory points is they did go, right, okay, bang, captain's meeting, everyone in, let's get it sorted. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So from a TO perspective in an organisation, they did at least that bit, the victory point issue, they did sort there and then. So that was good TOing, but bad rules packing.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So the reason I'm asking to clarify these things is because I don't want to give our listeners the impression that salty as you justifiably are, it's not aimed at particular people. It's,
No. There's reasons why, and I think we might touch on later. But yeah, let's just say the rules pack for an event of this size was just not adequate at all. But then again, it's the first one. Cut them some slack. You know, there was going to be errors, but these ones were pretty damn massive.
Yeah. This is almost like a practice run, isn't it, for next year, for when it starts properly and we take it seriously.
I was going to say,
Mission.
Warlord didn't exactly get it right, did they?
I think the main thing, the main reason we're so harsh on it is because we expected more. Having, gone over to the BBAL event and seen, wow, this was ran pretty well. It went really smoothly, and we were like, oh, brilliant, off we go. We were expecting some good smooth running, and then this just threw us up.
Well, the reason we're harsh is because we love the game. I mean, we've travelled, what was it, like 1,000 miles to go and play in these games in a different country against a bunch of strangers that we'll probably never ever meet again, because we love the game and we want to play it at this level. And to have a basic thing like in just schoolboy error.
So anyway, the final part of the pack, missions, which was a selection from those straight out of the book, where they rolled off randomly each round, and then the entire room played that mission.
The entire tournament, yeah.
The entire tournament, which had some of the results you might expect.
Yeah, so they took out 4 from the main rulebook because they are utter garbage to be running competitively, which was Manhunt, Demolition, Top Secret, and Double Envelopment, which was nice, but it left in things that would flip on a dice roll. Surrounded, Hold Until Relieved, which, while good missions, if you're stuck in the middle of that, defending a competitive event, you're more likely going to lose because you're at a disadvantage.
Surrounded is not a good mission. Like, if you're having an event...
It's a good fun mission for playing fun with, but not for an event. It's not an event mission.
If you're having an event where you announce the mission and literally 50 bolt action players as one all groan and say, seriously?
Yeah.
You're doing the wrong thing. Surrounded.
Is that the one with the alternating deployment edges where you can't bring it on the one that pit? Yeah, I hate that mission.
Yeah.
And it said everything. We were in because we were split across 2 rooms, but our entire room went, oh really? And somebody actually turned around and went, can't we play key positions instead? And we were like, well, we could do.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say in favour of them for the missions is they did get rid of the worst ones, which is Double Envelopment and Manhunt. But they should have split the 6 games into 2 kill points, 2 objective-based ones, and then 2 other of the funner ones. Because we all know the attacker-defender missions, as a kind of general rule, are imbalanced. They favour the attacker quite heavily unless you're a very specific army, like trying to get Japanese out of objectives when you're defending is just almost impossible.
Some armies are very good at defending, some are really bad at it.
Yeah.
It also means you have missions which are won and lost based on whether someone gets preparatory bombardment or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't want, and the problem is when it's a team tournament, an entire round versus country versus country can hinge on one game. And if that game's thrown because someone rolled a 1 of preparatory bombardment, does that really mean that country's better than the other country? Probably not. but that's the way it went on quite a few
I don't
rounds.
think that's a complaint that necessarily holds up, given that there were players there with 4 multiple launches. I mean, it's a slightly different question, but it's the same principle that if you're playing it and just so much of a game can just hang on luck.
Okay, that's fair enough. But let me tell you this. But the thing is like on multi-launcher, okay, cool. I got one round where I hit 3 6s, killed some key units, cool. Preparatory bombardment can annihilate an entire game. So just surrounded, awful mission. One player's got to defend, put half his army down in the middle. They've all got to be within 12 inches of each other in like one nice little cluster. Then you prep bombard them, and then you run on, and you're immediately 12 inches from them.
Did you get prep bombardment in
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I take it back.
It's insane.
All the attacker defender ones too.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that that's an attacker defender mission because it's just so bonkers. Because everything's just all over the place.
It's nuts, because that prep bombardment means the defender's first turn is rally, because he's got pins everywhere, and if the attacker's got a mobile multi-launcher, like a Panzerwerfer or a Katusha, he drives on, hits that lovely blob in the middle, again and again and again, until they're dead. Half the army dead.
I derailed us there by being mistaken about the mission, so don't worry about that.
So the missions are fine, but I think in a tournament of this caliber, you need to put in more work into the missions. Don't just roll off for them. You can't have a 6-game freaking bolt action tournament and not play key positions.
Yeah, it's funny that Warlord haven't cottoned on to this yet. It's really frustrating. The thing about missions, it's really important because if you've designed a game, even if it's not designed to be hyper competitive, like not every game's a war machine, what you've got to do is try and eliminate, when you're playing it competitively, the things that are random, which the missions are one of them. So it seems that every game that people want to play competitively, you should try and level the playing field of missions as much as possible. And it just seems that Bolt Action hasn't done that. There should be a set core of 4 or 5 missions, maybe as many as 6, where one side isn't favored above the other. You can do it as attacker defender if you want, but like sectors is a brilliant example, kill points is a brilliant example. Objectives, they could write a few more, but if you're playing it and you're trying to eliminate every factor other than the player and the list, which is where the skill should be, try and eliminate a mission where if one person rolls a couple more 6s than you do, they're doomed from the beginning. It just seems really odd that they wouldn't have done that yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, one thing it did do by not having objective missions is it just made tank platoons god mode, because no one brought enough to kill a tank platoon in a game, and because there weren't any objective missions, they weren't punished by having loads of tanks and no infantry. So it was just a bit imbalanced on that as well.
Yeah, I'll say this, that actually it's one of the things that when we did our tournament review of Cambridge, we really liked. Our criticism of the missions there was that 2 of them were pretty similar, but it wasn't that they were imbalanced. They were relatively balanced by the standards of some of the missions, and there's no reason that Warlord couldn't create something better and more consistent for playing the game that way.
I don't mind similar missions, though. I would be totally happy to play key positions like 50% of the time. It's a great mission. It's a mission that doesn't favor necessarily one side over another, and it promotes like quite diverse tactics depending where the objectives are, and also like I was trading my thought now. But if you're playing 3 different opponents, you're gonna have 3 different games.
Yeah, because opponents are going to place, because you get to place the objectives, they're going to place them in different places and make you use the board differently.
A good way of like knowing which ones they are is they're the ones that we all like. So we all like meeting engagement. We all like sectors. We all like key positions. None of us.
Dawn attack's pretty good.
Yeah, none of us like manhunt. None of us like double envelopment. And sort of that, in a way, it's not that we're perfectly balanced, objective people, but we all agree on this, and it's odd that we would. So it says that there's something about it.
I think this is a good opportunity for the WTC to just write some missions.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. There's enough people and brain power and TOs and organisers to write some missions and say, for the WTC, we'll use these missions, put them out 6 months in advance, give everyone time to play them, and just avoid the bullshit. Or only have a selection of 3 or 4 missions, but then don't be scared to double up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you play the same mission as you did the day before, but you're up against a brand new person on a different board.
Okay.
No, I think
I'm going to give it a 1. And it hurts me to give it a 1 out of 5, but this is because I care.
Yeah, 1. Almost a complete shambles.
Now, if it was just one pack that was a shambles, I'd give it a 2. But since it was 2 packs that were both shambles, it's a 1.
Yeah.
1 out of 5. This is definitely one of the key things to be improved.
Well, this I think out of everything, this is the one that got our goat up. Every other topic we're going to cover is pretty much standard bolt action tournament fare, but that one needed addressing, and the one reflects our proper feelings. So
Yeah.
Let's be happier. Venue.
Oh, venue, Poland. What a beautiful country, full of beautiful people, lovely food. Oh my God, England is ugly.
It is, isn't it? You don't understand how ugly English people are until you go abroad.
I can understand why people in Europe and hell, the rest of the world look at us and go, ugh.
Are we including the country then as part of the venue score?
yeah, because the whole thing was part of the package, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So when we went to the city, it was stunningly beautiful, and I'm not one for gazing at architecture all day long, but every
we were
building
gazing
was
at
beautiful.
architecture.
Architecture.
Gazing. Yeah, so
everything was beautiful there. I mean, the only thing you could say is that the water is more expensive than the beer.
It's so cheap.
Yeah.
So we was in Poznan in Poland. We managed to get flights there for what, 90 quid each returns. That's all right. Can't argue that. Once you got there, you could get a beer for 10 zloty, which was the equivalent of 2 of your finest British pounds.
Yep.
Which was pretty
and that
legit.
was an expensive beer. Let's be honest.
Yeah, most of them were about £1.70 at the bar.
You could get an Uber from one side of the city to the other for the equivalent of about £4.
No, not even that. Our total Ubers for the entire 3 days we were there, which is 5 or 6 trips, were about £4, and that's all the trips.
What, for all of them?
Yeah.
No, it was about £13 for the entire weekend.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was about £3 a trip, £3.50 a trip, and each one was a 20-minute journey.
You could not get from the middle of Leicester to my house in a taxi for £13. No, you couldn't do it. It's just it cost you about 30 quid. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So beautiful, perfect place really to have a tournament. Frankly, other than outside my house.
The hotel cost us £60 per person for 3 nights, and that's including Wi-Fi and breakfast, and food at the tournament for lunches, and a meal on the Saturday as well for everyone to talk to each other. It was crazy cheap.
Yeah, pretty damn good. Though I will say, the hotel, while it was functional, wasn't exactly a Hilton.
How many stars?
If I was giving it stars, probably a 3. It's a functional hotel.
Probably a 2 or 3. Yeah, it was like you got your bed, you got your bathroom, but you know what? It was clean. It worked.
I will say it did have nice food, and it was cheap drinks, especially for our hotel. It was cheap drinks as well, because usually they charge a bit more. So the hotel was great. The beds were a little bit uncomfortable, but apart from that, it was all fine.
I wish I'd packed
the
my
hotel
own
staff were really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially for us, rude English people who can't speak a word of Polish.
Hey, I was trying, but every time I got a dodgy look. There's me going, oh, maybe this is pronounced this way. Polish where it comes out, and all of a sudden, no, that's not how you say it. I speak English. We'll speak this way. Okay, I tried.
And it was a nice city to be able to explore on the days we weren't rolling dice. And because Poznan's the size of a really big battle in World War II, they had the old citadel ruins, and they had loads of museums. I got to go up and touch an IS-2. I got very happy. And a Katushka. And an ISU 152.
White stain on that Katusha.
Yep, it was brilliant. Can't complain. So yeah, I think in terms of a city and a country, brilliant. How about as a tournament hosting location?
It was really great. They had 3 conference rooms. The Middle Earth clan, which was something like 80 people.
Yep.
It was all in one room, and it was easily big enough to accommodate maybe 100 if it needed to.
Yes, there was about 80 hobbits, precious, yes.
Yeah. And then The bolt action was split across 2 rooms. It would have been tight in one of them, so having the 2 was great, but that just meant there was loads of space, so you weren't rubbing arseholes with the guy behind you and accidentally slipping a finger in when you put your hands behind your back or anything.
That's what I blame
So,
to
that was
my
great.
bad performance, lads. I needed that slap and tickle.
It was also really like cool and airy. There was definitely none
no
of that gamer
nerds
funk.
I mean,
No.
it was nice being spread over 2 rooms because, let's be honest, bolt action players, a lot of us have a little extra bulk because we actually like food and we don't like starving ourselves. So
Hey,
having
Pete.
the space was great.
Yeah, it really helped. So yeah, on venue, 5 out of 5 for me. I don't know. Could you go higher? You could go higher if the hotel was like.
If it was
Yeah,
a
I'm imagining you'd have
5-star
to-
hotel where we got maid service from the morning till the time you sleep, it'd get like a 1 billion out of 5. But
If it had a swimming pool, so I could have gone for a little dip in between my games, that'd have been great. But apart from that, you can't
Yeah, but
ask
then
for
you'd have to
for
pay
this
more for
dickhead.
it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to pay £100 a night for a bolt action tournament. I'm not there for that.
look at this guy. Oh, I've got so much time between my games. I'm going to go for 50 laps, lads.
I only had like 20 minutes in between each game because the games were quite quick in turning around. But
Yeah.
20 minutes is 20 minutes, isn't it?
So, what score are we giving for venue? Are we going 5 out of 5? I am. Yeah, I'm
I'm
going
on
to
a
go 5 out
5.
of 5.
I'm on a 5.
Yeah, solid 5.
5, 5, 5. See, it's not just slagging off. We got some good scores.
England is so expensive.
Okay, guys, next topic is terrain. Now, one thing we should say for this, they had to source a hell of a fucking lot for this. They had to source, 24 boards for bolt action?
Yep.
And for each
and a
set of 4
bazillion for Middle
boards,
Earth. Yeah, so
each set of 4 boards, they needed to be completely identical.
yeah,
So the way it works is for each team playing each other team, they played on 4 identical boards. So no matter which member of the opposing team you played on the the same board, which meant all of us played on the same board. So you had to do a lot of like self-duplicating terrain as well.
yeah, and that was a really good touch as well. Just FYI, guys, to have it, like Sheffield said, to have everyone on equal playing field. You just want it to be the person on the other side of the board that is the difference, and by having the identical terrain, it was.
For a team championship, it was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's the caveat, isn't
For an
it?
individual championship, no.
Yeah, no, for this, that made complete sense. If they did that at like your local bolt action league 25 player thing, that'd be quite annoying.
Well, like they did at the London GT for 40k.
Ah, you mean with the polystyrene tables? That is
I mean, there was a bit of messaging around when photos went up on the Botation group about the terrain. A lot of people going, "Oh, it's not a fucking terrain there, mate." It was nowhere near as bad as London GT. Also, it wasn't as bad when you actually were there looking at it. I'm a bitch for
Admittedly,
whinging
they
about
did
terrain, and I
lose-
thought it was all right.
Admittedly, they did lose an entire box of terrain before they could even set up.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you an idea that there was supposed to be a bit more, but getting it to Poland is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, a lot of the terrain that was on the bolt action boards was scatter terrain.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of little hedges and there were a lot of sandbag walls and stuff like that. So it might have looked really open, but there was a lot of actual cover on the board. So it did actually make it quite a tactical game of trying to maneuver to get round the cover whilst hugging it yourself. So I found the terrain was actually quite good for
And
what you're expecting and what was actually there.
While it may not have been pretty, a lot of it was obviously kind of paint by numbers in terms of terrain. It was functional.
It was functional.
It was very functional. It made good games where you didn't blame the terrain. At least I never felt like I needed to blame the terrain for anything.
Yeah.
It looked good. Like I was looking at it with the pictures, which by the way came up like in good time and looked alright. Like a few of them looked a bit more sparse than would perhaps be used to, but nothing looked properly Spartan. Nothing looked like completely devoid of stuff. I thought the terrain looked better than the terrain that the GT did. Oh,
well, there was no like air hanger boards where you've got a hanger on one side and a plane on the other, and that is it.
I take it, by the way,
everything had loads. So
all of the boards were 6x4, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So they were all on mouse mat.
just checking.
And
So they were all on mouse mat 6x4s, which was quite nice because you knew exactly the size of the board. And the other thing when you're looking at the photos, you look at trees, you think it's quite sparse. all of the trees were being played as dents, which was brilliant.
That's nice and consistent.
Also, really nice touch with the gaming mats. Like, they must have spent a lot of money on getting all those mats for 100 tables across both systems. I think something stupid like that. So that's a lot of mats. Yeah.
In Poland, though, with everything being so cheap, they probably only paid $10 each for them.
Well, no, because then they've got to import them, haven't they? In fact, they lost a box of terrain was lost in the post. Says a lot that they managed to still pull it on even with that. That's why, like, if you looked at the pictures, the churches, none of them had towers. Because the box with the towers, obviously, and a load of scatter terrain like sandbags and walls and hedges, and those were all lost in the box. So it's kind of like how much.
It's in some postman's front room when he stole the box.
Now the judgmental person would go, well, you should have been more prepared. But then again, if Royal Mail or whatever loses your box of terrain, what else can you do? You know what I mean? Shit happens.
Yeah.
I think they did well despite that.
Well, to get 99% of it there, undamaged, intact, and of good quality terrain, of adequate quality terrain, I think you can say that's a win in anyone's book, really.
Mm.
And 2 sets of the boards were completely supplied by Warlord, which was a really nice touch.
Mm.
Yeah, it genuinely looked good. I thought it looked good.
And one nice touch was because it was a team tournament, and obviously you got 2 captains, and then you got 4 team members each side, and you'd start the round by drawing lists, and then you could have all 8 players surrounding one board, and then together you go, right, that's a bridge, that's a road, that's a building, that's a which meant everyone knew exactly what was going on. And then if halfway through the game one player went, oh, well, didn't we do that as that? Their teammate goes, fuck off, mate, no, it was that. It just solved everything.
A lot of the time the captains were going, no, it was agreed as this, you're an idiot, Yeah.
It meant that the terrain was probably the smoothest part of the tournament that was run. To have absolutely no debate whatsoever about what was this, because it was all really clear, it was really functional. It was designed by committee, obviously by the teams who was gonna for each round what's gonna count as what. So yeah, I don't have many complaints really.
No, it was exactly what you needed it to be for a first massive tournament. So well done. Give this score 4, apart from looking a bit prettier.
I'm going to be a little harsher, because with an army that actually, when we're playing on the boards with more scattered terrain on, I did a lot better. With the boards with no scattered terrain on punished me specifically, so I'm only going to give it a 3, but that's purely self.
I'm going to give it a 3 as a very standard middle of the road score. It was functional, which is great, but it could look a lot prettier, and it would help if they had enough backup stuff, so that if the box did go missing, it would be fine. There is definitely room for improvement, but I don't think 3's a bad score. 3's perfectly fine. So I'm going to give that. Yeah, it was good enough for me.
One thing I would like to say as well is at the end of the tournament, Dave and the organisers said that some of the terrain they were donating to local clubs to help progress the bolt action scene, and I thought that was a really nice touch. So kind of a thankfulness, arrange everything, a bit of an incentive to say, everyone make it one massive community globally rather than just each individual team.
Yeah.
So 3.5 out of 5 overall for terrain. Okay, guys, atmosphere. So this is the bit where we famously give everyone a 5 out of 5.
We did say we weren't going to do this anymore, but I think it deserves special mention in this one as a goodbye to the atmosphere.
If everyone gets a 5 out of 5, then it's just a nice boost to make sure no one gets a really shit score, and we're all happy and friendly.
Yeah.
So what was the atmosphere like, guys, playing in the first World Team Championship?
5 out of 5.
Yeah. 5. So I was actually very worried before the event, because having not seen the pack, not read the pack 3 before it came out, I was there like, oh god, I'm gonna have to learn Spanish, I'm gonna have to learn French, thinking that way. And then Tove quite happily turned around and went, no, they've already said everything in English, and I was like, oh, thank God for that.
Yeah, there was no speaking between players as well during the day. So once you're in a game, no speaking to players on the next table. Everything is in English. If you speak in a foreign language, you'll be reprimanded for it. But I don't think it even came up once about players speaking to each other and stuff like that. So it was overall, everyone was playing by the rules. Everyone was really nice. Everyone was friendly. Everyone was buying each other beers during the games. So it was fantastic.
I think it's like it was like the competitive bolt action community on a pedestal at its utter best. This is exactly what we mean when we say here's what competitive bolt action is all about. People turned up, they got their armies out, they rolled dice, they had fun. No one whinged, oh you got that, you've got that, oh you rolled that dice there. It was totally tops up all time. I didn't hear a single person whinging at all throughout the entire event, nor afterwards from the participants. Utter good. And the captain's meeting on the Friday night beforehand was covering like the ground rules of, so here's what to do, here's what you shouldn't do, and a lot of it was covering saying seriously, don't bitch. And this is because obviously we shared it with the Middle Earth guys when we shared half the pack with those guys, and they're not quite as upstanding as the bolt action community. Let's just say they let a lot to be desired in terms of sportsmanship, but yet us here in bolt action land utterly stand up, not a single complaint. Whereas from what I could tell from the other side, there was a fair bit of faffing going wrong with Middle Earth. So from a bolt action perspective, good work, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing it properly.
Bolt action players are just easy to get on.
And this is what I always say. When people always whinge about, oh, the game's becoming more 40k, meh. Mate, you don't fucking know how bad it can be playing Games Workshop games competitively. Bolt action.
Go to a competitive 40k tournament, then come back to bolt action and tell us it's going 40k.
It's not even in the same fucking league. It was, utterly. It's exactly what everyone was like. So all the preaching we do about how if you're losing, don't whinge, just get petty and have fun with it and roll. That was on show from every single player and team, at least everyone we played. Utterly. You'd play your games. There was a couple of rounds where everyone got smashed. Captain shake hands. It's all good. You go downstairs. You buy each other beers. Everyone.
And you laugh about it, because let's be honest, if you lose like 3 units to Katusha, you've just got to laugh.
Shit happens. We do that to people as well as they do that to us. And because it's a team player, you could lose your game, but as long as your teammates have done all right, it's fine.
Yeah.
And the thing which I had to keep in mind is each team has in theory sent the best players from their country. So you're playing the top players in. At least it's not the World Team Championships, it's the Disposable Income Championships.
Yeah, and you're playing the players that will not give you an inch. If they make a mistake, they will rectify it immediately.
And they know the score.
They will jump on you.
Yeah, they know the score. So I played 6 of the hardest games of bolt action in my life. It was like so when you're at a tournament and you're at the top table and you're fighting for the win. Yeah. It was like that every single round, and I absolutely loved it. I can imagine that would put a lot of people off, but personally I thrived off it.
Similarly, I played 5 of the hardest games of bolt action I've ever played, and one game that I couldn't actually win, so I tried.
Oh yeah, actually my game against Andy on Scotland B was something else entirely. He played himself. I just turned up for the ride.
You just watched, like a bolt action cuckold.
Yeah, but then he's playing surrounded, so it was a shit mission, and he had to defend. Sorry, mate.
Hey, he's gonna have a bad day.
Yeah, and like I remember that when we played France, I was playing their captain, and mate, his rolls were absolutely atrocious, and yet there wasn't one bit of fuck you. It was just not my day, and I was like. No, it's not. It's not your day. It's just the way it is.
It's just one of those. Oh, look, another one. Oh well.
Handshakes all round.
Well, when I was playing the Spanish guys, I was playing like the guy because when we were talking to the Spaniards after the event and we were on the flight back and stuff, we were talking to them. It was like, oh, these 2 guys that you played, these are the best 2 in Spain, and they always finish number 1 and 2. And the guy that usually finishes top, and halfway through the game he just looked over at the Spanish captain and just did the when you do that hand waving your neck thing to say it's like, nah, it's dead in the water, mate, this whole game's. And after that he was just trying stupid random shit. It was hilarious as he was doing it, trying to shoot officers on 7s with a heavy anti-tank gun and stuff. It was crazy. It was really
Just got to do it, you know.
You got to do it.
So you played Spanish, Dan.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
English Dan is better than Spanish Dan, which we can confirm. Spain may have won the title overall, but we have the better Dan.
Yes.
That's an achievement and a half.
The Spain team, at least I had a bit of a giggle because there was an expat included, so I was actually playing a guy called Kevin.
It's Kevin. Oh no, I've caught Toast Mexican.
Oh no.
No, I'm doing Gollum today, you stupid fat hobbits! Get it right!
Potatoes.
Watch competitive boat action, precious!
You know, boil them, smash them, put them down to the bottom end.
Watch Katyushas.
So yeah, it was top notch all weekend. Because you'd play your game, you'd come out of it, you know, a couple of quick drinks, say, "Oh, well done," or "Oh, wasn't that funny?" And then you just, you know, off you went again. Somebody else going, "Oh, look at this," and you go and catch up with the others, like, "Oh, how'd you do? Oh, no, I had this happen." It's fantastic.
I think it once again reinforces that there's a difference between win at all cost whacker and just being a competitive player. They are two completely separate things. Taking a hard list is not a reflection on like you as a player or a personality choice. It is what it is. And
I mean, I've said it before. It is amazing how easy people get along when everyone knows what they're there for.
Absolutely.
This is if you could frame it and put it up on a wall and say this is the best example of it, this is what you'd show them.
Yeah. If you want to play competitive bolt action,
have fun,
how I envision competitive bolt action should be played, or at least the atmosphere of how it should be played, you cannot get a better example than the World Team Championships.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I, exactly like you, I had probably 5 or 6 of the hardest games I've ever had in bolt action and loved it. I couldn't fault anything about it. The difficulty of the games, the difficulty of the opponent, the level that you're playing at, and the consequences. You're thinking like, oh fuck, if I fail here, if any of the other guys have gone wrong, I'm completely shafted over the team. Having that hanging over you as well just made everything really important, and it was something to thrive on, I think.
I mean, there was games where I was looking. Oh, I've been thrown under the bus. I was looking around, looking at your guys' games, thinking, I really hope you're winning because I'm not.
Yeah. And it's another thing as well, is because you couldn't really talk during games against the rules, and you're supposed to just focus on your own thing. You could have a kind of a cheeky glance over, and because you don't really know what's going on, because you can't talk to each other. I mean, you could all 3 of you be winning and I could be losing, or I could be winning and all 3 of you could be losing, and just no one knows what's going on. So I think that's one thing they could have changed, is the captains can go and talk to people and say, you know, Brad's losing, you need to play for a draw because we got 2 wins on the other ones, so just claw it out of somewhere.
I mean, I was allowed to do that as captain. It's just it's very difficult to actually interject, especially when I've got to play my own game, you know what I mean? So I made a lot of friends though, and you know, obviously with Spain winning, I think they've all won tickets to the GT.
Yeah.
So I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing them there.
And the captain of the Spanish team as well said he listens to the podcast specifically to try and learn English, which is a terrible idea.
I can't think of a worse idea.
Yeah, but thank you for listening to it. I can't remember his name because
it's Alistair.
Alistair, that's it. Yeah, because Toast played him, didn't he?
Yeah. No, I didn't play him. I played next to him. He played Brad.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was a really cool guy, and he said he listens to the podcast, and actually had a few people come up to us saying they listened to the podcast across the weekend. So thank all of you for your perseverance with us.
So 5 out of 5 for atmosphere.
Yep.
I mean, can we do 6s on this for like a special because it was so amazing? Or
it'd be unfair on the others though, wouldn't it? Level playing field.
Yeah, but this is a step above though.
Yeah.
It's 5s with a view being 6 because
I mean, this could have been the most douche nozzle of all douche nozzle tournaments at the WTC, where the stakes literally couldn't get any higher. But it was probably the most chill tournament we've ever been at.
Yeah.
And that's coming off the back of the BBAL from the other month. We sang about how that was so chill. That was nothing on this.
Yeah. No.
And that was despite all the rules pack issues, despite all of the old shit. Now my scores got adjusted, you know. So, like, just think of how much chill it would have been if those wouldn't even been there, you know.
Yeah. I mean, once the dice were in the bag, that was it. Everyone was on the same wavelength for the missions, and it was just right. Have a good game, guys. And at the end, it was thanks for the game, really enjoyed it. And then you're talking to each other in the rounds and following up on how they did in the next rounds and stuff like that. So yeah, it was fantastic. 5 out of 5 or 6 out of 5 if we're allowed.
Okay, 5 out of 5 for that one then. So then, TO/organisation.
Now I can hear Pete seething already at the TO rulings and stuff. So Pete, we're going to let you loose in 3, 2, 1, go.
First point. Our most inexperienced player, never been to a tournament before, knew the rules better than every TO ruling I saw going into his table. It was infuriating. Half the time I'm going, you can do it, here's the rule book, and they're going, but I'm a TO, so shut up. And it's like, leave your ego at home and just give us the rule. So annoying. So annoying.
There was so the way it worked is obviously it was a really big tournament. It was split over multiple rooms, and there was you had the head judge Paul for bolt action, who was underneath the overall entire event judge Dave, who was both the head judge for bolt action and Middle Earth, and then underneath Paul you had loads of minor judges. So each country match had their own TO basically, and you had good TOs and bad TOs. Some knew the rules really well and were on point. Some were next to useless, and it was a bit.
Some were interpreting rules that didn't exist.
Yeah. Now, for the most part, you know, TO makes a ruling, and you just go, "Yep, sure, fine, whatever," and you just get on with the game. But there's a couple which were just so completely left of field. You're like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you pause during the game and go, wait, what? Did you read the same book I did?
Yeah, and most of the time you just go whatever. But when some of these rulings were things like, do I get heavy cover off an anti-tank gun kind of level of rulings, which really then affected the outcome of one match, which then in turn really affected the outcome of the overall country score. So some of these rulings really made bigger impacts, and I didn't have confidence in the TOs all the time.
No.
I mean, the ones we had confidence in were guys we knew, because they'd actually go, hold on, I don't know, and they'd go and check the book. And if you're there, right, you take 5 minutes, you check the book, I don't mind you getting it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few decisions as well where the decision is a 50-50 sometimes. You know, we all know that Warlord's rules writing isn't always the clearest, to say the least. And there was a few that are 50-50 where things, you know, one rule says one thing and another rule counteracts it, and you're not sure which one to plumb for. And the TOs, a couple of them sometimes, they'd spend 15-20 minutes trying to read every single different version of the rules to try and get a grasp on it. And sometimes you just want the TO to go, it's clearly 50-50, and roll a dice, I've rolled a 4 up, you get the rule, end of, carry on with the game. And they just didn't do that often enough, I don't think.
To finish off my little rag here, mini rag, one of the TOs actually got told off in the final round by the head TO for bolt action, because he was talking to his compatriots too close to a table when they've been told to basically clear off once you've done your games, so you don't affect the other games. And the fact that the TO got told off, it might have been idle chit chat, but within the rules pack, it went, sorry, all language to be English while in the room.
Yeah, so one of the things is you had to speak in English, so he broke that rule. Once you finished your game, you were supposed to leave that room. Now, you, as a player, you can go and look at the other room and look at any of the games because you've got no impact on them. You just couldn't stay around your own team's tables. And the players were doing that, which is a second rule broken. And then third, he was he was reffing on games that he shouldn't have been reffing. So the Polish TOs couldn't referee on the 2 Polish teams. The English
Scottish
referee, the English ref couldn't
Scottish
ref the
ones.
English games. The Scottish ones couldn't do the Scottish ones. And he was reffing the Polish game in Polish with the other players surrounding them, trying to make a decision on the rules, and it just wasn't right.
I mean, I will be honest. He was very helpful in my last game because the guy I was playing, his English was good. It was pretty strong, but talking to somebody that comes from, is originally from the West Country, I talk a bit funny. I called him over at times on purpose to do the translating for me. It's like, I don't need a ruling. I need you to translate. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there was one Polish TO who looked like the Mountain from Game of Thrones.
He was terrifying.
Whatever he said, you obeyed immediately. Even if he told you heavy cover is clearly open ground, you just go, yes, sir, of course it is, sir.
He was terrifying. He was absolutely huge.
If he'd have told me to go fuck off and play Middle Earth, I would have played Middle Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
mean, from my experiences, there was most of the TOs were fine. It was only 1 or 2, but the hard rule was we're playing by the book. In that, whatever the rule book says is how we go. Simply because obviously it's multi-language, you don't want to have interpretations, blah blah blah. Whatever the rule book goes. And there's a couple of times where the TO gets called over and he reads the rule book out to you and then rules another way. Yeah. Like, well, hold on there. As per the rule book, it says do that. Oh yeah, but that doesn't make sense. Yeah. Well, which one is it then? Because you can't just give one rule to one and one to another. So there's some very inconsistencies there.
And considering we painstakingly berated and pushed Brad into making sure he knew his fundamentals, knew his rules, so he didn't get pulled up on anything, I find it insane that they weren't doing that.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there were some good TOs as well, to be fair, so it's just weird that it was so
flippy-floppy.
Yeah, overall, the TOs were fine. It was just a couple of them on a couple of occasions, that's all. But I mean, one of the examples...
make a big difference, though.
Yeah, when we were playing the Spanish guys, for instance, this is how difference in wordings in different languages can come across. So one of the examples of how different languages can come into play is in the Spanish rulebook, when you're looking at units in cover, the ruling word for word is actually more than 50% needs to be in cover. When you look at the English version, it's 50% or more. And that was one of the arguments that we would have in throughout the days, is just little nuances like that. So having the TOs coming over and not being able to rectify that straight away was a bit annoying. It slowed it down a little bit.
I will be honest, I'm very glad you got that argument and I didn't. You've got a distinct advantage with that argument.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, it's a good job the atmosphere was so chill, because once the ruling had been made, it was, yep, sure, cool, bang, back into the game. There was no extended, it's just a case that it took so much to get there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've never played so many games where both players are like, am I in hardcover? Yeah, sure. Am I in hardcover? Yeah, why not? And it was just that kind of day where, you're not really there to argue, you're there to have a good game, and it was really snappy, just back and forth, unless you came up with a really odd set of rules, like a KV1 trying to charge through a unit into a building to ram it to claim an objective sort of thing.
It's like, but I called the TO over at one point during game 3 because both me and my opponent had agreed we don't want to call how much of my vehicle he could see, because I thought it was going to give me hard cover and he didn't. So it's like, you know what? Come over here, make a decision. We don't want to argue about it.
Yeah.
My final point is there's 1 or 2 instances where a TO would make a ruling and then would come back to the table 5 minutes later and it would have been overruled.
Yeah.
By the head TO. So then you're just like, well, which one is it? Because that means for one turn we played the rule one way. The next turn we played the rule another way.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to have a team of TOs, good, great, but you need to be very specific about how you pick them, and for God's sake, make sure you're all speaking from the same hymn sheet.
I think that's one more for Warlord than it is for the TOs. If they were to tighten up their rules and release a decent FAQ, I think that might help a little bit more. It might help the TOs out a little. It does already.
Yeah. I mean, a positive for the TOs is that any queries that came up, they were documenting, and I know they've sent an absolutely huge document of just here's everything that needs looking at to Warlord. It just depends how well that works.
A few of them were commenting between games that they were like, we've never had this come up in our community. Wow, what the hell? This is new. And there's a lot of players that I went, look here, this rule interacts this way here, here, and here. And I'd show them the book and they go, wow, I never knew that.
So, yeah, I'd like... It's such a shame because some of the TOs were absolutely top and on point, and I want to give them a 5 out of 5. But unfortunately, you have to go with the lowest common denominator, which is going to bring their score down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm infuriated that some of the TOs didn't know more than our most inexperienced player, so I'm already giving him a 2.
Yeah, I mean...
It's his first tournament. He knows the rules better than most of the TOs. What the smeg?
Yeah. I think overall, the TOs were of good enough quality. It was the odd thing that let them down, so I'll stretch to a 3.
I'm really in the middle now.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because for the most part, TOs were bang on, but then
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna.
And again, get the TOs off the table and, just talking friendly and not about the game at the end of it.
I'm gonna have to go.
You're back up to a 5, aren't you?
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go with a 2, simply because some of the errant TO actions, I'm pretty sure cost results of matches one way or another, and that's a step too far for me. So that's a 2-2-3. So let's go with a 2.5 for TO, which it pains me because there's genuinely some good guys. Yeah,
I'm going to call them out. The 2 Scottish TOs in there were top notch. They would go, I don't know, can you give me a minute? I'll have a look. Or, first one, have you read the rule book?
Yeah.
It's just, but then again, it was their first event. It's their first go at running a giant team tournament like this, where they all need to intermingle and work together. So there's going to be, it's not going to be an easy
problems.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping, take it all on board, come back stronger next year is what I would say from that.
Next year, I'm hoping 5s all round.
Yeah. I don't see why not. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. As I say, it's the TO is something which it's very easy to get a 5 out of 5 from us, but once you start slipping, it slips hard, fast.
Well, all we ask for is consistency.
Yeah.
That's it. Even if you come to a decision, even if you come to a table and it's a 50-50 decision, and then you make a call, and then it turns out at the end of the day you've read the rules and it's the wrong one, if you implement it across all the boards on every game, at least you've been consistent and everyone's had to abide by it. That's not an issue.
Yeah, that's fair. Right. Final one. Prizes.
The trophies look good.
Were there prizes?
So let's run it down. So for the winning team, the Spaniards who came first, they each won a £50 Warlord Games voucher, and they won a trophy, which was a tank shell.
And free entry to the GT.
And free entry to the GT. The guys who came second, was that Poland or Germany?
Second was
Germany, wasn't it?
Was it Germany?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, whoever came second, they also won a smaller tank shell trophy, and then they got £30. Was it £30 vouchers from Warlord Games on the website? And then whoever came third, the other ones got an even smaller trophy, and then won £20 vouchers.
Yeah, so and they all got nipples as well.
I mean, that's still a fair amount of prizes if you add up in terms of value. I think it's weird, isn't it? Because you think us as the English team, we came, 7th. So you go, 7th is a good score. I might get something. Well, yeah, but when you times each rank by 4, that's a lot of people who get prizes.
Yeah. And so let's just remember that Best Painted, they got fantastic prizes. They got like entire paint sets that cost a bomb.
Yeah, because someone that's fully painted a beautiful army only needs paints. That was an odd one. They could have just given them a voucher for something, but no, we'll give them more paint that they'll never use because they've got everything already.
Shout out Alistair Unica of Scotland fame, won Best Painted with his Germans again, as he did with Cambridge. Beautiful models. No arguments from me. Beautiful. And I hope he enjoys his box of Army Painter paints or whatever he got.
And calling out the Middle Earth player that got Best Painted because he didn't actually paint his models. So screw you, buddy.
I mean, another member of his team did.
Yeah, it was the same team, but it wasn't him.
I don't know why wouldn't you just go, oh, other bloke, you walk up and get the prize then? I don't get it. Why would you walk up and accept the prize when the guy who painted it's back there sat watching?
Next to you. Yeah.
That was weird. So yeah, there was prize for best sportsman as well.
Yeah.
Which was weird because they said only one person got full sportsmanship points. When looking back at the points, there was at least because 3 of them were on the England team.
Yeah. You know what's really funny? Best sportsman. You look at the England team. Myself, 30 out of 30. Brad, 30 out of 30. Toph, 30 out of 30. Dan, 28 out of 30. Guys, Dan is a delight.
Dan, you cunt. What the fuck is wrong with you, man?
Me and Toph are big, cuddly, fluffy bunnies. Dan is a delight.
I can't believe I was in double figures. I was doing
Who would have thought the England team, all teams would be the best, highest sportsman team?
It's nuts.
Who would have thought that we, of all people, would be the friendliest, loveliest, most fun games around?
It's almost like we're good guys and fun to be around. It's weird.
But I'm the devil of bolt action. I can't be all friendly and nice.
Mate,
that goes against my internet reputation.
After the results of finishing 7th, you're like the My Little Pony of bolt action now.
Yeah. You're England's devil.
Let's do the score some more. So England came 7th out of 12. So top of the bottom half. So mid-table obscurity. However, in terms of individual scores, Dan, you came 3rd, I think, didn't you?
Joint 2nd, yeah.
Didn't lose a game.
In 2nd.
5 wins and a draw.
I came 9th. Brad came 3rd from bottom. Pete, where did you come?
7th from bottom.
7th from bottom. So we're the most average team there, but we were really friendly. And being really friendly, isn't that the real prize?
Yeah. I mean, in my defence, every pick of the round we did, I went, you know what? Give me the nonsense. I'll die.
And also another thing as well is we mentioned already that the pack, the tournament scoring changing halfway through. One of the game against the French team that was a win that then became a draw. That it wouldn't have got us a medal place, but that actually moved us down potentially 2 or 3 places, so we could have finished 4th.
The top half of the pack was really close.
No, it's about 2 points between everybody. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, there was no one runaway team, so it literally did come down to the last few rounds on the day. On our first day, we won 1, lost 1, drew 1. We still could have won that if we'd got 3 solid wins, round 2 with good victory points. So yeah, it was very good in that there wasn't because you don't want a runaway winner. That's just boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to prizes. I thought it was all right. I think there was a fair amount. I think it's just a bit weird because you're used to having prizes distributed in single player tournaments, and when it's a team, spoiled. It's a little bit weird. Yeah. Also, we are spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember there were a lot of players, and especially because you've got to source that and Middle Earth. You're talking a couple of 100 prizes, really, in itself.
I think the prizes for Bolt Action looked better than Middle Earth because I don't think Games Workshop were particularly invested in it, let's say, in the same way that Warlord are. So thank you, Warlord, for being utter babes.
Yeah.
As always.
For actually looking after your community.
Yeah. Though, it was quite funny. So once all the guys won their prizes, that's fine. Then they said, ooh, the captains of the teams that haven't won anything, do you want to come up? There's a selection of blisters and packs and all that here. Do you want to pick a prize each and then distribute it amongst your team? Walk up there. It's a pack of Toughs, mate.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to split
between 4.
We can each have 4 blades of grass.
You can have 2. You can have 2. And there was some where it was Toughs is an example. There's also a box of 10 Polish infantrymen. You can have 2. You can have 2. You can have 2.
There was also a Polish tankette, wasn't there, Toph?
There was a Polish tankette, and as team captain, I claimed that for myself and told my team to fuck off. Fight me.
You are welcome to it, mate. You did the repping, so you can go in.
Yeah, so as I say, it's just like I like the idea of having little surprises for everyone else, but you might want to think about it a bit better what you can actually share
Yeah.
amongst a team of 4. It's just really, really fun. Just trying to go.
A for effort, F for application.
You can have the front left tank track of my tankette. You can have the gun. You can have the exhaust, and you can have the chassis. And between us, we'll be able to field one 70-point tank.
You know what?
Eventually, I'm coming for that turret.
Had they just gone, you each get a chocolate bar for every man on your team. Fine.
Yeah, a bar of Polish chocolate.
Or just raffle it.
Yeah.
Raffle it off. But yeah, I'm going to give prizes. Now, it's not a prize for every person. Do I go a 3 or a 4?
I'm already with 3. It's middle of the road. It's more or less what you expect.
I would say for the WTC, where it's not a friendly local game store one, you don't really expect prizes. You go in there for the tournament and the games rather than the prize support. So I'm going to give it a 4 because the trophies and stuff for the winners was great. And the fact that they gave away like scenery and army painter packs for the best painted and the best theme and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to give it a 4 because overall I think it was quite well thought out and quite well delivered.
Yeah, I'll give it a 4 as well. So
I've changed my mind. Make that a 4. You've changed my mind.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh. So, any final closing points before we tally it all up?
If anyone's still on the fence as to whether they want to go to an event like this, I mean, next year it's in Spain, it's in Malaga. If you're on the fence, definitely go. If you can try and get to things like the Bolt Action League to get your ranking up to potentially qualify for next year, do it. You will not regret going to an event like this. It has been one of the best experiences I've had.
And if you're worried about qualifying, a lot of the countries can also get B teams in.
Yeah, I mean we had an England B team. They named themselves Welsh. I've never heard of it, but
the Wales team, when none of them are actually from Wales.
And then they beat us, and they were very happy about it, and that's why we're the best sportsmen because we went. You need this more than we do. I can just imagine the red ears of the team over there now.
I didn't lose my game against the Welsh. I drew. It was perfectly average.
I played Mr. Paul Wickens, who I've met a number of times in the UK scene, and he is an absolute gentleman. And I absolutely wet myself playing him. It was one of the funnest games I've ever had, and he's a bell end.
And may I just say, right, we call them the England B team, but Saturday night, we had responsible Team England here. Brad went to bed early-ish. Toph went to bed early-ish. Dan went to bed early-ish. I stayed up drinking with the Welsh team and some of the Middle-earth teams, and it was a right laugh.
And that's why we lost, Pete, because you weren't on your game.
Yeah, you let us down. I didn't need to be on
my game, mate. I'd have lost those anyway. Second day, I just got trashed.
Yeah. Anyway, overall score 21 out of 30.
That's not a bad effort for a first.
I mean, it is the lowest we've ever given.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've given 1s and 2s.
Well, teething I think we'll put this down to teething problems. When you think about like the Bolt Action League, even though it was the first of its kind, Paul has run events before. He knows what he's doing. He's been to a bazillion events. He only had 24 people to cater for. That's why his score was so good. This is in a different country with 12 different countries' teams and having to logistically sort out everything. I think you could say this is a decent score for what it was.
Oh, and let's be honest. If they get the pack right, so it's a 4 out of 5, they easily get up to 20, 25.
Yeah.
And as I say, so although we've been slagging them off for the past hour, this is legitimately the most fun I've ever had at a Bolt Action tournament, hands down. So these scores, you can look at them. They're a bit of fun, just a bit of feedback kind of thing. But overall, it's just so much fun. So sort your problems out, as I know they want to. I mean, the organisers will be the first ones to tell you they fucked up in a number of occasions. So, onwards and upwards.
And Paul, if you'll organise it next year and you want to run the pack by people to try and play test it, send it out to the teams beforehand, mate, and just let them have a go over it with a fine tooth comb and see if they can pull it apart, because we definitely can, and you know, we want to make it as airtight as possible for everyone's benefit, not just to try and abuse it. So
Yeah.
So for people, so for next year, if you're interested in joining, not just the England team, any team really, get in contact with your local representative.
Dear
If you
Island,
don't know
where the fuck were you?
If you don't know who yours is, send me a message and I'll find them out for you. And if there isn't one, that means you're the representative, so get working. If you want to join Team England, I fucked about last year trying to cater to make sure everything was, you know, above board and everything, and then everyone ignored me. So all I'm doing this year is I'm going to go from top down from the British Bolt Action League, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. I'm just going to keep offering places out until I run out of people, and then I'm just going to start offering it up to interested parties.
well, the most we can take is 2 teams, so there'll be 8 people max. So
yeah. So as I say, if you're desperate to come to the British Bolt Action League. You know, it's as simple as that. And if not, you know, get some friends and make sure you got enough that we can fill in England B team 2.
Just out of interest, who's 1, 2, and 3 in the Bolt Action?
Currently, because they've not posted any more results, I'm number 1 currently.
No, because the imp score's been taken in as well.
Yeah, but it's not been posted yet, so I'm still claiming it.
Oh, for God's sake! So which British
at the minute it's me and Toph top 2, and Pete's like 3rd or 4th.
We
No,
don't have
at
to
the
take
minute with posted results, I'm first. Screw you.
But so British Bolt Action League tournaments between now and next year, you've got the BBAL round 2 in Stockport. You've got the one in Cardiff. You've got the one in Scotland. You've also, you know, if you wanted to travel up to Scotland to apply for the England team, because why not? Whatever. It's not my rule set.
If you're going to travel up to Scotland and beat all the Scots, then you're more than welcome.
You get in by default.
Yeah. Also, you number of sort of affiliated events, like Not One Step Back, our event, that will give you points towards the British Bolt Action League. And as I say, I doubt you. From last experience, there's probably not as many. You won't have as many people accepting as invitations I send out. So if you're interested, make yourself known as well. Make yourself known as a competitive player who wants to come to these sort of things. Because it's all good going, yeah, I go to a tournament, yeah, I'd like to, that'd be fun. But it's one thing to say that, and then to actually go, well, here's the money I'm going to put towards, here's the clout, here's the investment I'm going to make. Because it's a lot of work, you know. We spent loads of time, like, spending up time in the early hours discussing lists over Skype and just, you know, working out as a team and working together. Because ultimately, that's what you need.
And be aware, guys, as well, Spain will be more expensive than Poland. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, I've got to work that out. I might not even be able to go because of the money. Got to convince the missus.
I'll sort you out accommodation, mate. Don't worry.
So coming up for the BBAL, just to give them the plug they deserve. May 25th is the Big Bolt Action Bash in Bristol. November 16th is the Winter War in Dwarf, which is Dunfermline. And then the main events coming up, September 14th and the 15th is the Scottish Nationals. There's the British Bolt Action League in Firestone Games Cardiff, and the British Bolt Action League in Manchester Stockport.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, shall we have a quick break, and then we can go into a post-WTC discussion, aftermath, and what we've learnt and all of that, and then we can go on to the rest of the podcast.
Yep.
Oh,
cool.
Yes. So on to the final points of discussion. WTC got a 21 out of 30. It's a score to improve on, but we found some things there that were really quite different. So what have we got, guys?
So just styles of play, really. I'm going to use the buzzword now, and Sheffield's going to choke on his willy he's sucking on right now. Metas. The meta, or the way our local group plays, just in terms of like what we think is good and what we use in a tournament play, it's completely different to some other tournaments. You know, in the UK, it's definitely much, how many of this can I fit into my list? I need to get a really high list, blah blah blah, high dice. Meanwhile, Poland, they didn't have a list over 13 dice, I think. Which in a
no, they didn't. It was all veterans. It was all armor. It was all strong units that wouldn't die.
Yeah, so it was very and obviously these the countries who played in their way are good at playing their way. So they come across to us, and we think, oh, well, the people who play your style of list, that's not great. And then suddenly they're absolutely smashing people with that style list, and you're thinking, what's going on?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing out there was, I mean, obviously the meta in the UK is to take 8+ tanks or 7+ vehicles with light AT and stuff like that, but then no one really takes anything to deal with it. And when we were in Poland, the amount of anti-TOF rifles people took, every single Russian force we saw had 3 of them, and no one took dog mines in their Russian forces. They all took tank rifles. All of the vehicles were auto cannons and what is it? The heavy auto cannons as well, like the not the Werbel, the
Kugelblitz.
The Kugelblitz as well. Yeah, everything was like +2 or 3 for their armor pen, just to deal with the amount of 6, 7, and 8+ tanks you get over there.
It's just a different way of playing entirely, especially in like the team format. Like when we was on the way home and was talking about how we all did and how we could have done better as a team here and there, and we were just talking out loud about things like, if I'd just taken a 5 dice, 5 Sherman list,
you'd have stomped all over it. Yeah.
But then if we was going to a tournament here in the UK and thought, I'm just going to bring a 5 dice Sherman anti-tank platoon, you'd all call me absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Well, it helped as well. It's always one of those things where after the fact, after the tournament's finished, and you go, there were no objective missions. We should have all just taken 5 big tanks. And you can say that afterwards, can't you? In the moment, you would have been crazy to take 5 Shermans, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, Sheffy, you didn't go, but you had a chance to look at all the lists and obviously listen to us lot wax lyrical. What were your thoughts as an outsider perspective?
Well, I think I should move to Poland because part of the reason I have so much difficulty is it seems very apparent that I play the Polish meta. That's the standard lists that I take. I'm joking, really. It looked pretty variable, actually. I was quite impressed. You worry that the meta everywhere else matches you, and it's just really satisfying to see that it doesn't, because it means that the games specifically aren't how you expect them to be. So I really liked the I can't remember which nation it was. I didn't like whichever nation it was that bought all the multi-launchers. Who was that? Was that Wales?
England B.
Yeah, Wales has a list with 4 Katyushas in it.
Sorry. Yeah, the England B team. I didn't like that, and I'm not saying it's ineffective, but that would have really annoyed me, and I wouldn't have enjoyed playing against it. But actually, some of them, there was just some really good balance. I quite liked the Spanish team's armies; they looked quite good. And I don't know, there's not too much to say for me, because it's, even with an outsider perspective, it's hard. But I wouldn't have played an army that was like mine. But that's which you might well do if you go to just lots of the same tournaments here in the UK.
One of the things I will say is, when we were a couple of weeks before we went out to Poland, we printed off all the army lists when they were released and had a look at them all. And, we had a quick discussion online about which lists were we afraid of, which were we not afraid of. And it's amazing how many of the lists we actually looked at and we were just like, yeah, it doesn't scare us at all. Yeah, it doesn't scare us at all. But when you actually get there and you're up against a really good player, you forget that when you go to normal tournaments, those lists in the hand of, your everyday Joe Blogs that goes to a tournament just for fun isn't that dangerous. But in the hands of a really, really good player, it's suddenly a scary proposition, and you actually can get really tonked by playing it.
Yeah, I will say this, just to add to that, because I don't disagree. But one of the things that is telling is the amount of things which are consistently missing from competitive play. So yes, there are things that generally everybody accepts are good that will appear no matter what the meta is. So actually, you see a lot of flamethrowers, sniper teams, lots of that sort of thing across all metas. They exist. Lots of cheap transports for carrying small to medium-sized units to where they need to be. All of those appeared everywhere. You don't see big cats. You don't see generally cavalry, because it's really tedious to try and do. Now, I know that TOF's doing a cavalry army. We'll come to that later. But generally speaking, at competitive play, you don't see it. And the World Tournament proved that as well. I'm trying to think what else there is. You tend not to see that much inexperienced infantry unless you can make it hyper cheap, like Strafbat or something like that.
Well, there was one French list that was 25 dice, and it was a double platoon.
24, yeah.
Yeah, but everything was inexperienced apart from his 2 howitzers and 2 tanks. So, and they were all 5-man inexperienced squads as well. So every unit on the board, apart from like the 3 or 4 good ones, was maximum like 40 points.
The exception proves the rule. It's the one you remember because that's the thing that defined it, and it wasn't the norm.
But it wasn't that good a list. Apart from as soon as you killed those 3 or 4 things, the list was completely neutered. There was nothing left in it.
I mean, my takeaway overall is like there was so many completely different, game styles and ways of building this, and there wasn't a single dominant style. Now, coming from us in the UK, and I know obviously a lot of the UK scene gets us a lot of the hype because we're one of the most bigger scenes. We're all on the Bot Action Facebook page, so a lot of what we do get spread out across the universe on our page. So in which case, if you just looked at that, it would be all this bloody Soviet Stalingrad bullshit. That's King of the Universe, all Market Garden, blah blah blah. But those lists were present, at the WTC. Soviets were definitely one of the more popular nations to take, but there were no means the runaway winners, and they were like, so for me, I obviously took my Stalingrad list, which is quite famous in its horrendousness, and I got beaten down by a 13 dice British list by the Polish guys. Why? Because he knew what he was doing, and as I say, it's not always the list.
Yeah, but the thing is that wait, no, it's gone. I can't remember.
Good contribution.
Yeah.
So
that's the sort of contribution, that gold standard stuff you pay for.
Yeah. When we finally set up a Patreon, pledge £10 a month to hear more of Sheffield's umming and ahhing.
Oh, it's not that bad.
My basic thing though is, as I always say, it's you pick a style of play that suits you, and then you just practice, and you'll go far in life. For all the people whinging that heavy tanks are shit, and for the most part, they're not as easy to use as a multi-launcher. But try, and you'll get there. Just as I'm trying right now.
The team that finished second was Germany, and one of their players who did really well across the weekend was the Russian guy, and he had, what was the big one, the KV-1?
No, he had the ISU 122.
Yeah, the one with the big heavy howitzer on it, isn't it?
Heavy heavy outs for 300 odd points. Yep.
Yeah,
Stalin's tower.
He did really well across the weekend as well. Yeah. So
I played him. He was a beautiful man.
So what shocked? There was a couple of things that actually completely shocked me. Because you got 5 lists per team, and we had first round. We were looking at the list going on, and then realised that the French had dropped a Japanese Pacific Defender list that we looked at, and they dropped it, and we were shocked. And on the same thing, English GT or UK GT, a Finn list won it, and every Finn list got dropped.
Yeah,
that was very strange. That weirded us out.
One of the things I did notice as well is when we were reviewing the lists and when we got there as well, no 2 armies were the same. Because usually when you go to a tournament, you go in like if there's 8 people or so, like there was at that tournament, throw a difference. But all of them were in their own unique styles and unique to the countries as well. So, one of the Soviet players for the Dutch team was all veterans in body armor. And another one for like the Danish team was all SMG scout squads. And no 2 lists were the same, just showing that you can do any country you want in any way you want, and it will still be a good list.
So what does this mean then? So taking all this away for the wider bolt action competitive scene, for every other country going back to their scenes and us coming back to the UK, what does it mean going forward? And what do you reckon it means for the next WTC next year? Because we've all now had a taste.
It'll change the flavour and style of lists. I mean, the massive takeaway for me is do not get pigeonholed into thinking you've got to do a certain thing to actually get up the table in events.
Yeah, I think we will definitely take a lot away from that tournament. We've already, thought of a couple of things we could perhaps do for next year. But I think because some of the lists were publicised and because of, the popularity of the tournament and how it's
portrayed on our podcast, and people like Paul for the War HQ and all that sort of thing, it will get a bit of momentum behind it now, and I think you'll slowly start to see a bit of blending and a bit of melding for all of the metas. So next year you might find that everyone's kind of picked up on what everyone else is doing and kind of mix it all together and just becomes one big melt.
Personally, I think I'm going to try using lower dice lists as well, just to see how the Polish do it. As a case of, I'm just interested to see how they do it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I noticed as well is veterans. I never usually take them except in my market garden list, and I've only used that once at a tournament, and okay, it came second, but I really, really, really underestimate and underappreciate the value of just being a veteran infantryman.
Just being hard to kill is a pain in the arse.
It's to maths hammer it a little bit. The percentage increase you get of survivability for being veteran is way more than the percentage increase in points you pay to be veteran infantry.
Yeah.
So from a purely statistical perspective.
If you math hammer it, it's 18% harder to kill a veteran than a regular dude, and the points cost is not the same proportion.
Well, yeah, but you've got the leadership bonus in there as well.
Yeah, so for me, I think I'm going to try taking a lot more veteran infantry from now on. I'm currently building the Belgian force, and I've kind of themed it around veteran cavalry. I may change it up a little bit to try and get some of the veteran chasseurs, Ardennes in there, just to see how it works and try and play around with that a little bit for next year.
Those chasseurs are really good. I've played them in a tournament. They're really strong.
Mm.
So final points before we move on to we finally leave the WTC. Team tournaments. I'd never done a team tournament before, so I think most of my learnings on how you actually articulate yourself around a team tournament, because mostly my experience of a tournament is you go, you sit, you go across the table, you shake your opponent's hand, play as hard as you can, hope you win, and then that's it. When you're playing a team tournament now, you've got you've got you and all of your teammates to consider as well. So,
yeah, and I think what really, because we all learned the same thing over the weekend, is you need somebody to play for a draw, and you need somebody to take a fall, and you need the other two to try and win.
See, this is where I think we were wrong, actually, because because Pete was our go-to draw specialist and we tried to throw him against all the hardest lists and just play for a draw, I think we got that wrong. I think you need to put your strongest list out, lay your cock on the table, put your butt on the wall and just bring it. What are you going to do? Because if they put their hardest list down as well, then their hardest list is gone. You haven't got to worry about it anymore. And I think that's where we went wrong. We too often put Pete's list up and they just picked their hardest list and went, okay, we'll just smash Pete's list and no worries about it. And I think that's where we went wrong. You got to try and match them, because that's what the Spanish did. Every round they saw and they found out who was the top player from each team, and they put their best player, which is Aquile, up against them. Every time they matched him against them to try and knock them out of the running.
Kind of try and take the strongest player out and let the others fight between them.
But that's where there's different tactics, because some players would go, right, we're going to build a list specifically designed to only draw, something like, it's just 5-10 man veteran squads who go down on objectives and can't die, and they throw that up against the nastiest list and just go, we have no intention of actually winning this game. All we're trying to do is to stop you. And I think if from the drawing board, if you go into a tournament going, I don't intend to win a single game, and all I'm going to do is take on the nastiest list no one else wants to play and draw, it's just it's a game on top of a game before you've even reached a game.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I'm not flying halfway around the world to take a list that's as not fun to play as that.
Oh, I could have fun drawing all the time.
to be fair, as the draw specialist, learnings from this is if we're all lucky enough to qualify again and we're on the same team again, I'm quite happily being the draw specialist taking that, but I will take a list to reflect it.
Yeah,
I think that was definitely England's team's failures, if that makes sense, to not be prepared enough for that side of the tournament. Like the rolling dice side, I think we did fine. It was the inter-game dynamics between sorting the team draws. That's where we fell down.
I think it probably would have helped if it had been TO'd a bit more consistently and everybody knew exactly what they were doing and how it was going to work. Because how it worked and how it was envisaged didn't necessarily correlate, did they?
Well,
it meant we had to change our game style halfway through the first day, because suddenly we were doing the right thing to play for the wins and the draws, and then all of a sudden we had to change it because that's not how you do it anymore.
Were any
It's
of you
like,
undefeated across the entire thing?
Yeah, me.
I said so, Dan. So surely the takeaway is everybody should copy Dan.
No, because Dan gets his wins by being a cunt.
Hey, I've got 28 sportsmanship, you bastard.
Wasn't 30 like the rest of us, though.
Dan gets his wins through pure talent.
Well, the thing, this is coming from me, who's quite a competitive player anyway. I think if you're going out to play for a draw, you're already on the losing end of it anyway. You need to go out with the momentum, with the idea of I'm going to smash your fucking face in, mate. If it happens to end up in a draw, then I've failed, but I'm going to smash your face, and that's how you need to go into it, in my opinion. I know that's not in a gentlemanly way as well, but that's my.
Is that why you're going to the open stream at the GT, Dan?
Yeah, and
we're writing his list.
I'm taking 100 bamboo spear fighters because theme.
Yeah, actually played against the bamboo spear fighters.
Yeah, well, there was
haven't
one
changed
guy
my mind. They're still pants. I'd still swap them for militia. But that style of list was, he had basically no anti-tank, and I was there like, this is still bloody terrifying.
Was that the German guy? The Spanish guy on the German team.
That was Miguel, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Manuel.
Manuel.
Manuel, was it? Top player throughout the entire tournament. Didn't lose a single game.
Manuel Danger.
That was it.
I have two questions just to sort of to finish on that I thought would be interesting. They're very quick to answer. The first is, how did the standards of painting and modelling measure up to sort of the UK tournament? Because obviously these are people who care about the competitive, or for this tournament they're caring about the competitive more than anything else. Were the armies still good, or were they better or lower quality than what you'd see at another event?
Can I answer this?
So hands up, just before we go into it, I think my army was the worst one there.
So on the second day, lunchtime, when they said to everyone, do you want to go and put your armies out on your tray outside so they can be judged, none of the England team bothered.
We'd already seen the other armies and
had absolutely no chance of getting anywhere near the top of painting because there were some absolutely stunning armies there, of which we're all Ponzi painting shits.
I don't know, Dan's alright.
No, yeah, mate,
my Marines aren't very good, and I was using some old models.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Filling gaps.
We had nothing on some of those other teams.
Then I would say the vast majority of them, and I'm saying probably 75% of them, were above tabletop standards, and not just above, but like quite far above tabletop ready. So I think overall they were of really high quality.
I like it. The other question, which sort of goes hand in hand with that, is: did it feel Rivet countery?
No.
A lot of the lists, all right. There was a couple where you went, well, that's you'd think that's not historical, but then you're there for a competitive event. That's possible in the game. Unlucky.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It wasn't geared towards.
There was only one complaint about lists the entire weekend, all 4 days we were there, and that was from listener of the podcast and friend of the cast Russell, who was captain of the Welsh team, who was whinging about how there were so many multi-launchers, even though Paul, that was on his team, had brought 4 of them in a single list. So irony, fine name is Wales team.
To be fair, when we played the Welsh, me and Brad on the Welsh team had a multi-launcherless game, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, the same can't be said for the rest of us.
Yeah. Although, just another thing that highlighted to me, Chindits are amazing.
Yeah, they're Americans on steroids because they get it for every weapon, not just rifles.
And
they're
they get
so
the benefits
good.
of being Brits as well. It's like Americans and Brits combined.
Yeah, and I've never played Gurkhas before, and I played a couple of Gurkha lists, and they were quite horrible.
I know Gurkhas are horrible.
Were they Maori Gurkhas?
No, these were just Chindits and Gurkhas, I think.
I played
no, sorry. They were free Indians and Gurkhas.
I played Gurkha paratroopers. I annihilated one and put 6 pins on him with a heavy howitzer, and then one dude just stood there and went, "Ain't fucking going anywhere, mate."
Having played against Gurkhas before, I know how to deal with them, but as a Japanese player, you tend to jump into combats a bit more readily. Gurkhas, I don't touch them with a barge pole until there's 2 or 3 of them left. It's too random. You're going to go in with 10 even 10 against 5. You're going to lose the combat.
Yeah.
Right, cool. Anyway, that's the WTC, guys. Let's move on to the next segment because this monster-sode is getting absolutely huge.
Hey.
Frequently asked questions, feedback
What
and
in the
questions.
fact?
What the fuck, mate?
What the fuck? So obviously we've been to Poland. We had quite a lot of feedback from the guys over there. We've covered some of it already. You know, Alistair, the Spanish captain, saying he listens to us for the learning English, which we said is a terrible mistake.
It's the worst mistake to make.
I mean, you shouldn't even really listen to us for bolt action advice, but doing English at the same time is fucking terrible. What are you doing?
I imagine he laughs at us for bolt action advice. Silly English.
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of people coming up to us and telling us they listen to the cast, and not just, you know, the England B and the Scotland teams A and B as well, but a couple of the guys. So we had some players from Germany, from Holland. One of the French guys listens to us as well. So it was really weird. You know, it's weird enough going to a tournament in the UK and having a guy come up to you and go, "Oh, listen to your podcast," but when you've travelled a few hundred miles across the continent to go and play Toy Soldiers with a bunch of strangers and actually having them come up to you and saying it's really humbling. It's great. So a big thank you to everyone that came up to us and said hello and mentioned us the podcast.
Martin in the German team is one of the nicest guys in Barton you'll ever meet. And he came over to say hi because I know he's listened to us. I've met him in the past, and he's coming to not one step back. That's how much he has faith in the shit we do. He's getting on a plane and flying from Germany to come and roll dice with us, dickheads.
Well done,
and
Martin.
Any of the other guys that were at the WTC as well, if any of you want to come to Not One Step Back, feel free. Just message us and we'll hook you up with tickets.
Yeah,
and we'll
I gave
recommend places to stay in.
I gave Martin a free ticket because, like, if you're spending hundreds of pounds to get on a plane, £10 is the least we can do to say thank you.
Oh, is he the guy that's staying in the fancy hotel?
Yeah, he's being very swanky country bumpkin and staying in the hotel about 100 yards from the venue. So he's going to have very, very traditional English holiday, yes.
Traditional holiday.
Well, it's either that or he goes to, like, you know, Premier Inn in Leicester and gets vomited on. So
I was going to say, traditional English holiday is you find only fools and horses in a pub and just drink Guinness until your fucking eyes bleed or something.
I mean, it is next
Just
door,
end up having
isn't it?
No,
take your shirt off and have a fight.
It is a pub. It's next door to a castle and a field with horses in it. It's about as English as you can get.
I was going to say, you go drinking with tea with the Queen. So that's all exciting.
The Germans know how to do tea.
I'm more interested in their sausages, mate.
Hey.
I was waiting for a
Toph
tank
loves the
joke,
sausage.
to be honest.
Can I just say, I was just looking on Google Translate of how to. I thought it'd be nice to say "thanks for listening" in Polish, and I've Google translated it, and I've got absolutely no idea how I'd even begin to pronounce it.
We tried this at Poland. Just don't. Just don't.
Yeah, I asked probably every single Polish person, "How do you say thank you?" And I'm still not sure whether it's Czechnie or Pniecznie. No idea.
That's all I took from it.
It sounds like you're just saying Chechnya. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically what it sounded like.
Czechia.
It also sounded like check please, but like really quick when you just want to leave the restaurant at the end of the meal. Just check please.
I was going to say, I think all I've learned, all the Polish I know, which is exceedingly limited, comes from Poland Ball, the internet meme, and he just swears a lot.
Other feedback, I had a very strange experience this week from one of our listeners, well, so I had some days off work after coming back from Poland, you know, have some days off work, spend some time with the family before I go back because I've ignored them for so long.
Oh, it's because he put his back out reaching for another sausage roll.
This is weird. On Sunday, at the end of the tournament, all the teams are going, "Oh, who are you going? You staying? You going?" You know, because who's working out who's staying to get bladdered on the Sunday night in the hotel bar. And so, I can't remember who, but someone said to me, you know, "Hey, England team, when are you going back?" I was like, "Oh, we're going to go back tonight." He's like, "Why are you going back tonight?" And I was just like, "Because I want to go home and see my family." And they just looked at me so weird, like, "You have a family?" I'm like, Yes, and I love them. What the fuck is wrong with you?
So, we all got the same thing. Like, when you're going back, we're going back tonight. And they're like, but aren't you staying? It's like, no, we were here a day earlier than you. And they went, oh.
Yeah, we helped set up the fucking event. When we got there, we were slave labour for a day, weren't we?
Dan
looked like he was slave labour. He was freaking livid. You got told off for not smiling enough.
I know. And then I got told off for smiling the next day. I can't fucking win.
You can't give mixed messages.
I know.
But yeah, anyway, back to my story before my divergence. So I sat there with my family, and the doorbell rings. I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" Go over to answer the door with the just most confused and scared-looking UPS driver I've ever seen. And he hands me a parcel, and he goes, "Is delivery for Devil of Bolt Action?" And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, Juggernaut podcast." I look at the box, and someone's literally written a parcel saying Devil of Bolt Action, Juggernaut podcast. Toast house, what the fuck? So I'm just like, mate, one of my mates is probably just taking the piss, signed it, let him go on his way, and he's just muttering as he's walking away. God knows what he must have thought. Go back, sit back at the table.
Is this where you take a picture and show it to us and we're like, oh my god, open it?
It's just like someone's obviously sent me anthrax. You know what I mean?
Well, if it had been us, it would have been in like a packaged as a box of dildos as well. Though.
Get back to the table, open it up, and there was a 3D printed in all of its glory, Mr. Blobby, in 28mm.
Mr. Blooby.
We've got it. We have a Mr. Blobby model now, so we're going to paint him all up, and he'll be our little mascot. So
he's going to be one of our pledge forfeits for you have to replace your general with him.
Yeah. We've posted pictures of him on the Facebook page for anyone who wants to have a look. And someone asked what we need to use him as, and I think it was who was it? I can't remember. But he said he has to be a forward air observer because he is the harbinger of the oncoming storm.
He's a Gungeworth.
Is it too mean to make him a suicide bomber, a suicide anti-tank mine?
Yes.
That's so poor taste.
Just running at a tank. Blobby hug.
I like the idea of him being a sniper. He's a sniper and he just looks at you and you turn to stone. As you're mesmerised by the
blobby mine bullets.
Yeah.
No.
I'll use him as a commissar in my Soviets.
Have you ever seen the South Park episode where Mickey is just the evil bastard and he's like the slave driver when they're doing like the Jonas Brothers concerts? That's what I imagine Mr. Blobby as a commissar to be. Get back in the fucking fight.
You've been paid to do a job. Get the fuck back there. It's just like, you guys will charge over that hill into the machine gun. No, we won't. Turn around. Blobby.
Charge over there or I'll set Noel Edmonds on you.
Yeah, that came from Juggernaut Kalo. So thank you, Kalo. For absolutely terrifying me into an anthrax scare. Totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
Time spent designing that on Shapeways was time. He could have been painting his Thunderhawk.
Okay.
Shouldn't Mr. Blobby be a flamethrower team?
He should be a Piat because he's fucking useless.
Because a flamethrower team means we need a Mrs. Blobby.
Aww.
No, he should be a lone Gurkha, so he's got tough fighter, veteran infantry.
I like the idea of him being a spotter. So he's just stood there staring at you, not doing anything, just stood there in a bush staring at you, and you don't know why. Just like a random paedophile with a coat on and some binoculars. And he's like, yes, there they are. Yes.
Shall we green stuff a coat? Because it does look like he could be flashing.
If you do, I'm not painting it.
What if you paint?
Shall we green stuff on a blobby cock? Ooh, a big pink and yellow one.
Mr. Blobby's Hobby Nobby.
Look, this is what the fact, not Hobby Lobby section. Let's keep going. Any further feedback?
Yes, we had an email, or we had a Facebook message, I think it was, from a guy called Gordon.
Gordon.
You're not
You
going
know
to
you
do it?
want to do it. You know you want to do it. I'll
Go
let
do
you
it.
do it.
Gordon's alive.
So the
Yeah, that
list,
one.
he was
Fire everything!
he was begging to do that line.
I was, and I thought, I'll set it up for everyone, but no, you failed me.
It's because you do it so well.
But he completely thrown me. He sent us a list, and he asked us to have a look at it. And I'll just read the little bit of blurb he had at the beginning, and then we'll have a little pick apart of what we thought. But first of all, hello, Gordon, welcome. So he asked us if his list would be effective as a way of dealing with lots of armor. So it seems that his opponents have lots of things like Panthers and Tigers and lots of LMGs, and he's playing Soviets. So he's saying, this is my Soviet armored counter. What do you think? And just at a quick glance, it's not that much infantry, but it's built around 2 big Su-100s. So they're the super heavy AT gun. They're basically Jagd Panthers, aren't they? But Soviet ones. And a whole bunch of other stuff. So who wants to jump in first? What should we say about the list?
First of all, the best way to get your list on here is to call us Mighty Juggernauts.
So based on the discussions we've been having about heavy armor recently, as like a theme we've been working towards, he's basically saying, so if the meta is going to evolve to heavy armor, how do I deal with heavy armor? So he's got 2 super heavy AT guns, tank destroyers, Su-100s. He's got he's got a couple of machine gun tanks, machine gun armor cars, and then just a second platoon of just 3 or 4 veteran 6-man infantry squads. Each one's got double LMG. Sniper mortar at 1250 points. So at 1250 points, he's got 3 veteran squads, a couple of vehicles, and 2 Su-100s. 11 dice.
11 dice.
11
Not enough.
dice at 1250. So straight away, those veteran squads, what is double LMGs, mate?
40 points wasted.
That's 120 points over 3 squads.
2 dog mines per squad.
Don't take dog mines when you bloody brought 3.
No, I know. I'm giving you a comparison.
Let's dog mine off. Tank blows up. No, mine.
I mean, if you're going to take a lot of tanks, I'd think you'd want to take tank riders, personally, to get the maximum benefit out of that. So immediately swap those in, is what I'd do.
If he was to drop all of those LMGs, for each of the 2 LMGs he drops, it's like 2 Strafbat squads. And when you're comparing the 2, a 12-man Strafbat squad for 27 or an LMG for 20, it's an easy choice, really.
Yeah. If you're going to take big tanks, you need some infantry to support it, if only to provide a distraction. So Strafbat would probably be a good drop hit. Either way, 3 6-man vet squads at 1250 points is not enough. However you swing it.
And I think actually it's going to sound like such a weird complaint because you've got 2 Su-100s in there. You've not got enough anti-tank because even though the anti-tank that you do have is like a proper boom gun with a super heavy AT, whatever you hit's going to die. Remember that you're going to be hitting on 4s or possibly 5s most of the time. That's 50-50. So even if you hit and penetrate every turn against even a medium tank, you're only going to kill them like 30% of the time. It's just not worth it. Get rid of some of the LMGs. Chuck a flamethrower team in there. The pins are what'll deal with a heavy tank better than anything else. Keep your super heavies.
Well, the thing is, for each Su-100, they're 300 points. They're 9+ tanks with a super heavy AT gun, and it's 300 points each. So he spent 600 points on these. So he spent big dick tank points without having a big dick tank. You know what I mean? Because they're basically elaborate, like just stationary guns in that they don't have a secondary gun. They don't even have a I don't think they have a coax. Literally all they've got is an AT gun. So if they get immobilized, they ain't seeing shit. And for 20 points more, you could upgrade each one of them to an IS-2. Which
hasn't the super heavy AT gun also got a 3-inch blast? That'll help.
True, but for 20 points more, you make it an IS-2. For what you get for the IS-2 is you make it a heavy tank, not a medium. You then get the HE stays the same. You get a drop down. It's only a +6 rather than a +7. But you gain a turret and a coax machine gun, a rear machine gun, a hull machine gun. If you want a pintle machine gun, for 20 points more.
I mean, rear machine guns are the best.
So I can see what he's trying to do in making sure he's got enough anti-tank, but it's too far over the line, if that makes sense. It's very overkill.
Well, one of the things he mentions is, inclusion of medium heavy tanks to help deal with other people's tanks. But the thing is, no one is taking those heavy tanks. So by taking them now, you're going to be, what we think is slightly ahead of the game because no one takes anything to deal with these guys. So if you take big tanks with lots of little guns and a big-ish gun on them. So I think there's one of the Russian ones, is it the KV-8 that has like the light anti-tank gun and a whole flamethrower and a machine gun and a rear-facing machine gun.
It's a coax flamethrower, but yes, KV-8.
Yeah, that sort of thing is fantastic. You've got, the Swiss Army knife of tanks. You can chuck out shots without worrying about people damaging you. You can deal with any threat that is coming towards you because you've got an anti-tank gun and a flamethrower. You can pin stuff and make sure the rest of your army gets up where it needs to be by shooting machine guns at them. It's an all-round good tank, but these SU-100s are just a bit,
if you
square pegs in round holes, aren't they?
If you didn't want to take a heavy tank and you just wanted to take an army that could deal with other heavy tanks, for your 600 points for those two SU-100s, you could bring like 4 SU-76s. Each one is 7 or 8 plus, open topped with an IS, a ZIS-3 on it, which is a medium AT gun, which can also fire as a light howitzer. So you've got 4 medium AT guns that will take out a tank, or at least if not pin it to shit. And if they don't have a heavy tank, you've still got 4 light howitzers that you can then go squishing infantry with. I think that'd be a whole lot better as like a whole all-round list than this one. Because the problem with this list is, if someone brought an IS-2 or a Tiger, this would kill it. But against everyone else, it's overkill.
I generally think that, going the SU-76 route is the way to go. Because having played against, TOS IS-2 recently, it was firing at little Hago Japanese tanks. Half the time that IS-2, if it misses, it's wasted its shot. You've got to have it firing it, because a lot of people take the big tanks and go, I'm going to shoot your tank. You've got to have it firing at a tank that you go, meh, when it dies.
Yeah, a lot of the time, people aren't going to be able to kill your tank, so you've not got to worry about their tanks. A light anti-tank gun, unless it gets in short range, isn't going to be able to kill something like an IS-2 or a 10-plus tank, no matter what variant it is. All you're doing is you're trying to bind that tank to scare all of the infantry around it so you can create a hole to punch through with your infantry.
Yeah.
And then when you get close enough to the other tank, then you pounce on it and then just either ram it or you drive up into its face and shoot it point blank.
There's a way to deal with it. There's a way to deal with having your big, the guy with the big tank is just start shooting his infantry. Start machine gunning his infantry with whatever you've got, whether it be little double machine gun tanks, or just start picking on the infantry and make him deal with you.
Yeah,
because
I would say
shooting some crap, he's wasting his tank.
Yeah, I'd say if you've already got the models for the SU-100s, get a little bit of polypipe, and just the same length as the barrel, and slide it over to make a bigger, fatter barrel, and field them as the SU-152s, because they're 10 points less. They're 290 points, but you get a heavy howitzer with extra pen value.
Yeah, that's a different chassis.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the SU-100s are based. They're the T-34 chassis. The ISUs are obviously
the
IS-2.
They're the dedicated ones.
What you can
Ignore
do is
that.
for about 180 points for the same chassis, you could basically have this gun with a medium howitzer instead.
Yeah, but do it. I'd take that, and then you've got 200 points spare to spend on something else as well.
I mean, the thing is a super heavy AT gun. Yes, it's effective against tanks, but what's also effective against tanks is a flamethrower in a Jeep.
Yeah.
And that is like a third of the price, and that will just run up into a heavy tank.
It's even less than that.
Flamethrower it, yeah. And so I like the theme he's going with. I like the idea that you're doing well, Gordon, in that you are thinking about what my opponent's going to take. But I think you've overdone it. Rein it back.
Exactly. All of the light things are fine. Like actually, all of the MMG trucks and things like the T26s are all really good. And you've got the right sort of squads. You've just over-equipped your squads and slightly overdoing it with the tanks. If you just take it down and put more things in, actually, it'll be really effective.
Yeah, I mean, in a tank war game, the SU-100s are great choices, but as a utility tank, they're not the best choices. So I would just change those and just play around with them a little bit. Maybe just include one, like an IS-2 for 320, and then swap the other tank down for a couple of the medium howitzer variants.
Either way, give it a go. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see.
Not to piss on your bonfire too hard.
Any other feedback?
I don't think there was.
Oh, is this G-Reg? Yeah.
So we got one from
G-Reg Wazza.
G-Reg Wazza, which sounds far too cool for me. So I hope you don't mind.
We's not cool enough.
I'm just going to call you Greg.
Because I don't understand what your name is, precious.
So it's fine. I'm just going to call you Greg. So anyway, once again, following on from the heavy tank chat we've been having, he sends a message. Hey Juggers, on your recent podcast, you talk about heavy tanks and shoving them down people's throat using Topher's IS-2 as an example. Is it a combination of a big gun and big armour that's the key? As the big Brit tank I have is the Churchill, which does have a slightly smaller gun, just thinking about using one in the next tournament. So, what do you reckon it is which makes, big dick tank? What are we talking? Is it the threat value? Is it the toughness? What is it that actually
combination of the threat value and the toughness, but you don't want to threaten tanks, you want to threaten what people are going to have the most of, which is infantry and artillery.
Infantry win games, tanks don't.
I think the thing that makes a big tank scary is it driving straight up to you, knowing that it can't be hurt, and just threatening that it's going to drive straight over you or MMG you at point blank range. That's what makes it scary.
I think it's a psychological thing as well, and it's just very presence. Like, if two squads are advancing down a road at you, whatever. If two squads are advancing down a road at you with the support of a giant tank in the middle, which is giving them covering fire, sweet bloody Jesus, it just changes the dynamic of things. So we had a bit of discussion. I won't go through all of it because I've been sat there all day when I should have been messaging Greg and having a chat about it. Genuinely, from a British perspective, now they don't have the same sort of tanks that like the Germans and the Russians have. They don't have giant tanks with massive howitzers on them, at least not really. But you can still kind of get the same sort of effect. Like a Churchill AVRE is what I would suggest. It's got the big heavy armor, it's got a big heavy howitzer, it's got potential to do a lot of damage and to terrify your opponent, which is what you want, because then it draws the opponent's focus away, which allows the rest of your army to do other things. I also think can't the British take one of the cheapest heavy tanks in the game in the early war Churchill, because it's only got a light AT gun?
Yeah, an early war Churchill, for me, if it's only got a light AT gun, is completely ignorable.
But the thing is, it's still heavy, so it's still unkillable, and it can still deny objectives, so it can still just be in the right place and not die.
Is that what Luke had in that massive multiplayer game when we christened his battle bunker at his house, and he didn't move it? What was that?
He had the flamethrower Churchill.
He brought the Churchill Croc, spent 500 points of it, and it didn't leave his deployment zone.
Yeah.
He was too scared of the panther on the other side of the table, which is what you don't do, gentlemen. Don't do that. Yes,
exactly. The best advice is to do the opposite of what Luke did.
One thing I will say for big tanks, if you've not got the weapons, so things like the Churchill we're talking about, it's just a light anti-tank gun. If it's a 10 plus tank and it's not got the tools in terms of the guns to kill stuff, it just becomes a giant battering ram. All you do is you drive down one flank in one turn, and the next turn you start lining up some charges, and then you just run at all the enemy units you can do and try and make them take as many morale checks to make them flee off the board as you can. And remember, if there's an artillery piece on the board, if you drive straight into it, it is automatically destroyed unless it stops you from getting there, which most people don't have a lot that can deal with a 10 plus tank.
Also, because a Churchill is like 6 inches long or something horrendously huge. Like,
how huge is it? 6 inches too.
It's for me.
Every inch counts.
Well,
you
can use it to block roads up. Like, if you just advanced for you're 6 or 9 inches forwards, and then just did a 90-degree pivot, and then just went right, cool, you're not coming through.
If you're defending with envelopment, you put that on one flank, and you just deny about like a 12-inch bubble. And they have to go around you, and you can filter the enemy where you want them to go. Or if you're playing on like a city fight board, you can block a big chunk of it by having the tank sat in between a certain, in between two buildings or on a road or something, and your enemy just can't go near it.
Yeah, have a test. Try different versions out, Greg, and let us know which one it is. Because I'd be genuinely, I don't have a Churchill for my British Army, so I'd be genuinely interested to see how it actually goes. Trying to play it that way with a Churchill. Or another British version. Can Brits take the Sherman Jumbo, like the Americans can?
I don't know. They can take pretty much all the Shermans, I think.
That might be, because that's another heavy tank I can think of.
It is really expensive for the Sherman
it?
Jumbo,
Is
though.
it?
Yeah, it gets into silly prices for what it does.
Yeah. As I say, I'm
have a
working
go,
with-
but
yeah.
yeah, have a go with it. But I'm concerned. I'd be concerned about the early walkers just to light AT going up. No, you've not got the tools to hurt me. Go away.
Well, do what Gordon's done. Just play one game with the 2 tanks in. Take one light AT Churchill and one souped up Churchill, and just have one of them as a battering ram and one of them as a dive in the middle and shoot the shit out of everything, and just see which one works best
That'd
for you.
have to be a big game because those are about 600 points of tanks, just those 2.
Well, just play a tank war game and just have yours as a tank platoon and the enemy as normal, and just have 3 Churchills then and go balls to the wall.
Basically, have a bit, try some various styles, have some practice, see how it comes out. But those are our thoughts. I think it's a lot of practice is basically it, because you need to know when to throw your weight around and when to actually go. Actually, I need to be scared of that. That's key. Things like flamethrowers will kill you no matter how big your tank is. So just be wary of getting too close to them. But otherwise, just know what you can and can't get away with.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other feedback? I think that's it for feedback, is it not?
I think that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
nothing left.
Okay, right, let's go. Okay, guys, so here's a segment we've not done for a number of episodes now, which is philosophical question. We're going to have a big discussion, and Sheffield's going to get on his high horse, most likely. So, those who are connected to the internet will have seen that an FAQ has dropped for Bolt Action, a new frequently asked question and errata document to hopefully fix all of the mistakes. A couple of issues with it. Firstly, it wasn't given to the community as a whole. It was given to a few people attending certain events, and then it went passed around by hearsay for a week, and then it was actually released a week later. So, okay. And then there's quite a few fixes that aren't necessarily, let's say they've either not fixed things, actively made them worse, or just blindly ignored blatant problems. So the philosophical question, before I deliver it to Sheffield, I can just feel him chomping at the bit to jump in.
I'm holding him back.
The question is, how much responsibility does a games company have in maintaining their game? So, just to clarify, I'm Games Incorporated. I've made Wargame 101. I've sold Wargame 101. Taken my fine pennies off my customers, give them each a rule book. What now? From this point onwards, how much responsibility do I have to maintain the game? Sheffield, are you ready to go?
Yes. The answer is a lot. I know that's nice and vague, but certainly you have more responsibility than Warlord have shown. So let's begin with saying, let's compare them to the obvious comparison, which is Games Workshop. Games Workshop used to be appalling. It was notorious for not communicating rules checks, just throwing things out into the ether, getting it all wrong. And in recent years, like in the last 10 years even, Games Workshop have absolutely massively turned it around. And so in some ways, they are the pinnacle now. Perhaps that's milking it a bit too much, but they're very, very good at taking community feedback, giving it back, making sure that their FAQs are regular, cover the issues that are affecting the community, even if it's to say, actually, you're wrong, suck it up, community. And they produce it, and it tends to be error-free. It tends to be of good quality. And so if they're the yardstick by which you're measuring these things, Warlord have failed quite significantly. So the philosophical question, how much responsibility do they have? They certainly, if nothing else, they have a responsibility to not make it worse. And I think that actually that's the real criticism here, is Warlord Games haven't just thrown out something and gone, it's in the ether now, it's your responsibility. They've thrown it out and then thrown out other things that have made it worse. You know, the George Lucas approach, repeatedly going back and changing the films by editing them and putting things in them that just make them worse and worse and worse. So just stop doing it, leave the films alone. That's what Warlord are doing with their campaign supplements. So to get an FAQ, as they have sent out, which basically looks at all of the issues that they know exist, that the community are champing at the bit to get them to change and address, for the FAQ to say, we're not going to address these. Because that's what it literally says. It says, we're treating these as non-tournament standard. We're not going to address any of these things. Just leaves it open. completely to making all of the problems worse, because now that's the justification for people. Because people will say, oh, well, it's not been FAQ'd, so it's fine. And that's entirely the wrong attitude. So it's completely preposterous. You expect them to produce something that shouldn't need to be FAQ'd in the first place. I mean, we're reasonable. We don't expect them to be like producing massive works of literature. They're a games company. But we expect things not to have like special rules that have a name, but it doesn't tell you what the special rule is. You don't expect their FAQ to contradict itself 3 times just in the space of the FAQ. Because this FAQ says that units in a vehicle that are transported in a transport vehicle cannot see out of it, except that they can for the purpose of Tiger Fear, but they can't if they're a medic or a spotter. But actually, wait, yes, they can if they're a spotter. The whole thing is just ridiculous. It contradicts itself on a number of different points. And then it's spending all of this stupid time clarifying things that are in the rules anyway. So I just find the whole thing just drives me completely nuts. It's changed nothing. And if anything, it's made the game worse by farming off the problems to somebody else and creating more problems where there were none in the first place. They've poured gasoline on a fire is what they've done.
Yeah.
Genuinely upset about it.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, I think the biggest thing that the community was after was clarification and some tidying up of the rules for the campaign books. We weren't asking for miracles. We're not asking you to rewrite them all to make sure that all of your rules are perfect in every way, but just the very glaring errors, things like your recon rule for your Germans in the Western Desert, your free Indian squads on the Western Desert books, your Schutzen, are they generic infantry, and some of the other stuff. Warlord have taken the approach of just one of the first things they said was, this is our new FAQ for tournament ideas. No campaign books ever. It's just generic platoons. That is it. And it's almost like they kind of clapped their hands and, dusted themselves off and went, right, down the pub then, lads. That's that one taken care of. Not got to worry about it anymore. And it was completely the opposite of what the community wanted. Yeah, we know that multi-launchers can target buildings. It's in the rules. We know that it then hits. Fair. Well, I'm trying not to wail on them because overall, it's a decent game system. They just need to spend a bit of time paying attention and taking care of the rules, rather than just saying, well, actually what we're doing is creating a historical game and fuck it.
No, but this is precisely the problem. I think I said this in the comments on one of the Facebook posts. Is that it shows, if it doesn't just show that they don't really care too much about taking responsibility for clarifying things that aren't clear. It's that they show contempt for their game by making one of the best rule systems that's been released for a miniatures game in a long time. And its beauty is its simplicity and its effectiveness at doing what it's trying to do, and then deliberately complicating it, making it worse. The perfect examples of this are like Tiger Fear is always the good example of this, because it used to be really clear what Tiger Fear affected and what it didn't. And just repeated FAQs and silliness and different books have all made it so you're not really sure what you're doing anymore. Another perfect example is that the rule book says that a vehicle always has 1 dice, and it's 1 dice per vehicle. And now there are multiple units in multiple campaign books which explicitly break that rule, but it's not explained how the rules interactions work when you break that rule. So you're just left trying to work it out. There's lots of artillery pieces that function like not artillery pieces and things like this. And it's just, the more they add to the game, the more things don't fit within that simple rule system. And so you spend more time arguing about the specific rules interaction that might only come up in 1 or 2 games than you do actually playing the game. And it's really frustrating. They need to take their game and say, well, we need to simplify this. The selectors in Western Desert are a perfect example of why it desperately needed the FAQ, because each one of them have a different rule that says exactly the same thing. They have 5 separate rules. So the point is that all of the Africa Corps selectors should be mechanized infantry, because that's what the Africa Corps fought like. And yet, because they've all had that worded in a very slightly different way, and one of them, perhaps there's some edit, there's a grammatical error that makes it not read. People are saying, oh, well, this selector, that's the one for which that rule doesn't apply. And the intent is clearly that it should. The whole point is they're mechanized selectors. And it's because of that point, which could be clarified so simply by a piece of errata. That's why people are so salty about Schutzen all the time, unjustifiably, because that's the selector that potentially, if you interpret it in a certain way, means you can take them without having to take a transport, at which point you're getting the free LMG for nothing. But if you have to take the transport, it's not a free LMG. You just get the free one because you have to buy a transport. So it balances out. And the whole thing would be solved if they'd just gone, all of these 7 selectors are mechanized infantry. Mechanized infantry means you need as much transport capacity as there are troops. Done. Blanket across all of them. No problem. But because they won't do that, and they won't bother to errata it with a single line, it's all stuffed up. And you still get this issue where people are trying to sneak units that don't belong in places that they don't belong. And as I say, it just makes it worse. I think, I genuinely cross about it.
Can I be devil's advocate then? Come on. You can let me throw myself in.
Do it.
Okay.
And then we'll wail on you afterwards.
Oh, I know. It's fine. But we got to have a discussion, not just Sheffield's, circle jerk time.
Like there it is.
So, Warlord Games are a business making money off our gamer hobby dollars, where we go, I want to buy stuff to roll dice in my garage, I'm going to give Warlord money to do so. They do this in
So don't mess us about and make us angry.
Give me a fucking minute.
No, you don't even deserve it, because this is exactly the problem.
This is the thing. They do it in 2 forms. They sell your books and they sell your models. Yeah? Models, no complaints. I want a tank, they'll sell me a tank. Fine. Books, they want to sell your book so you can play bolt action with your mates in the garage. Now, yes, those theatre books may not necessarily be consistently written. Yes, they may have grammatical errors and make a bit of confusions. But can you grab one of those books, get your friend in the garage and play an enjoyable game? Yes or no?
Depends on the book.
Depends on the friend.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You're just being obtuse.
Yeah.
You can grab one of those books. You can go in the garage. You can play a mate. If there's a bit of a rule which is a little bit funky, you can work out what it's supposed to be 9 times out of 10. If not, just roll for it. Go for it. You've paid your 20 quid to have the book. Print cost, maybe manufacturing cost, maybe a £5. So you're giving Warlord 10-15 quid profit. Cool, there you go, bish bash bosh. Why are you expecting any more than that? Like, if you was buying a computer game, all the big companies do patches and all that, but you know what, if it works, then it's fine. Patching to oblivion, as you say yourself, tends to make things worse rather than better. So surely there'd be a logical argument which just says, Warlord, the only thing they need to do is make the rules, release the rules, and then wipe their hands on it.
You know what the problem with this argument is? Because it's very, very simple. Is unlike you 3, I play a lot of historical miniatures games. I play other historical miniature games by Warlord. So I play Black Powder.
You don't have any other friends. We're your only friends.
I do have other friends.
You lie.
Friend singular.
One friend.
But the point is that
himself.
Your family don't count as friends.
But I have all of these. I'm in all of their groups on Facebook as well, just as I'm in the Bolt Action group. And none of them care that there's no massive FAQ for these things. Nobody really minds that they have to house rule and fudge it a bit. And the reason for that is very, very simple. It's because Warlord are not actively encouraging an event and tournament following and supporting an event and tournament following for those games. You buy the stuff, you buy the rule system, you play by yourself. That's how it works with Black Powder and Hail Caesar. But with Bolt Action, because of the nature of how popular World War II miniatures are, and because of how cheap Warlord Games have been able to produce such an excellent system of games, people have snapped it up and they've gone, fabulous, we've got our marketing right here with a community of people. And so they've supported it. They've encouraged it. They take photos of it. They host their own grand tournament for Bolt Action. They don't do that for any of their other games. And so you can't, with the one hand, be saying, we encourage this community-driven, excellent thing that we're running and we support it and we're behind it. But then when it comes to actually putting our money where our mouth is and supporting it with the necessary documents to make it run smoothly, actually we're just going to slap you in the face with it, which is how it feels. So they've obligated themselves. If they had not released anything, it would be fine. I'd be far more tolerant of it than if the fact that actually, no, they're trying to support it. They're capitalizing on the massive popularity it has. And then those people that are making it popular, the people who are buying the stuff, i.e. us, people like us, we're the ones who are most annoyed that they're slapping us in the face. We can get annoyed with Games Workshop, quite rightly, for constantly releasing new things and giving all the new things the best rules because they want us to buy the new thing. Warlord Games, to its credit, doesn't do that, but it does the opposite of that. It releases a new thing and gives it the worst rules you could possibly write for it. So you're going, why on earth would I buy this thing you're releasing?
I've got to slightly disagree there. I think Warlord have got their marketing down to a T. So when they release a new book, everyone's like, oh, new toys, new book. Let's all go out and buy all the stuff and buy the book and buy all the models that have come out with it. It's fantastic. Everyone starts to play it. And then a month down the line or a few weeks down the line, it's, oh, this rule doesn't make sense. Can you help clarify this? And then it's, oh, the next rule doesn't make sense as well. And then the next rule doesn't make sense. And then it's kind of like Warlord just kind of go, look over there to distract you. And then all of a sudden, they've got the D-Day landing book coming out soon. And then as soon as that book comes out, it will be everyone snaps it up and buys all the models and buys the box sets for it and starts playing it and loves it. They find a couple of the little loopholes and a couple of the poorly written rules. Everyone goes crazy for a couple of weeks, and then Korea comes out. And then it starts all over again.
It's not a sustainable business model, though. And like, to be honest,
it is
we're
at
going to
the
be
minute, though.
No,
and that's what they're like.
No, I'm going to be an armchair business analyst for the moment. The model you've just described is the used car salesman, the dodgy used car salesman who goes, "Oh, I've got you a proper runner here, runs sweet as a bell, it does," and then they've filled the engine with sawdust and oil, and you drive it down the road, and 2 weeks later it falls apart. It felt fine at the beginning, but actually it's rubbish. Meanwhile, down the road from dodgy Dave's garage is what's it called? Bloomin'. What's the other miniature system that everyone's going and playing now called? That's the
Chain of Command.
One. Thank you, Chain of Command. Basically, you got Chain of Command down the road who are proper people. They do a good job of it, allegedly. And so, of course, all the people who are going, "Oh, I'm sick of my cars breaking when I buy them from here, and I drive them for a bit and they fall apart. I'm going to go down and use that garage now." And that's how it feels.
I'm not for a second saying it's a sustainable model in the long term or that it's the right thing to do. I'm saying that's what they're good at. Is they're good at releasing this stuff to distract you from the shit they've done and then keeping that cycle going. So when D-Day comes out, everyone will forget about the FAQ for a few weeks and then it'll all start to build up again and slowly but surely happen. And then Korea comes out and then who knows what the next book after that is, but it'll do the same thing again. I think overall, just dead quickly, you can tell how much Warlord really care about their proofreading and rules writing. On the summary sheet of the rule book, there are loads of mistakes just on that. And that's just, even if you're a brand new player, you think, I'll just have the summary sheet open on the back page and then we can all, learn the rules as we go along. Even that's all wrong. It's completely pointless.
I was going to say,
Anyway,
Pete, you're very quiet, Pete.
I judge an FAQ on what I label my answers to stupid questions. And the amount of questions in the FAQ that can be answered by reading the rulebook is insane. I don't get it. I mean, why answer the questions that you can literally reply to as, have you read the rulebook? No, why don't you try?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, look after your game, but I think they're getting, to play a bit of devil's advocate, being flooded with questions that you can actually legitimately reply, read the damn rulebook, and then having to sift through and go, actually, no, that one we need to sort, and actually we need to sort that one. They might not be seeing what they need to sort fully because they're having to answer all these mundane questions on the way through. I mean, obviously we care enough about the game to be going, come on, just give us more.
I was just going to say, before this turns into a let's rag on the FAQ release, we're getting a bit far away from the philosophical question of how much responsibility does a games company have. They should have complete and utter responsibility. It's their products they're putting into the market. It's their responsibility to ensure that the product is as good a quality as it can be and tries to satisfy as many of the people out there. Now, how much responsibility are Warlord taking? I would say probably the bare minimum to just about get past without upsetting everyone and their dog.
No, it's worse than that. But I'm leaving it for now.
So let's hit this on the other side then. So I think this comes from the problem at least Warlord have in this with this specific situation with the FAQ that they released is that there's no one at Warlord Games head office who fundamentally understands bolt action. in the same way that, say, a competitive tournament player would, or someone who just plays it day in, day out. If that makes sense, would you all at least agree on that? The problem is they get asked questions that they don't necessarily know the answer to, and don't particularly know the answer better than the person asking the question in the first place. I mean, this is the downside of a game that was produced by a third party. Bot Action was written by Riverhorse on contract, and obviously Alicia and co have since moved on to other things, which means the initial people who designed the rules aren't necessarily there to answer questions quickly or easily anymore. And even if they are, they've got their minds on other things. They're not in depth in Bolt Action anymore. So would the solution be? Sod Warlord, do the community themselves write the FAQ and just take it on themselves? In which case, which one's a better solution? Warlord owning taking responsibility for the game, or the community taking responsibility for the game?
Vigilante games design.
Warlord probably would need to take responsibility, because if you let your community take responsibility, you're basically giving the game to them and going whatever. It means that
it's what rules do you want to write then?
Yeah, anything new you come out with that contradicts something the community have come up with suddenly becomes a problem, which is why they need to take the onus, the responsibility, and go, you know what? Yes, this is a bit odd. There's your fix.
But, no, I agree. Warlord need to retain control, but they can definitely farm it off to the community. If the community if they'd actually asked us what they want addressed in the FAQ, would have been able to tell them, give them a list of, like, generously 30 things that are major concerns that we're not sure about. Here's a prime example: British Indians, combination of national special rules issues. That if we'd say, can you fix this? And then if they do it, fine. That they've still got control, but they can go to the community and say, what would you like us to fix? There's no evidence that they've done any of that. If you think about what occupies the majority of argument and time explaining rules in the Bolt Action, Facebook, and other online communities, it's not the things that the FAQ answers. So who are they getting the questions that are in the FAQ from? Because they don't seem to be getting it from the biggest and loudest community. And that's including the tournament organizers. Like, even if you just said we're only going to get a small pool of the community, just the tournament organizers who run events, they're still clearly not even listening to them. And it's getting even harder. Like, you saw the exasperation of, like, people like Ken and Tibbs and even us as, like, pseudo tournament organizers. It's frustrating. They just need to ratify what other people are saying, and that would be good enough. What they can't do is wash their hands of it in a way that doesn't let anybody else pick up the reins and do it for them. It's just really disappointing.
So speaking of washing hands, especially in relation to the theatre books, where in the FAQ it caused quite a stir when they did just put, seriously mate, these aren't for tournaments, go away. all words to the effect of. But that's always been the Warlord stance from the very first, was it Battleground Europe, the very first theatre book they released years and years ago? They said straight up, these are not going to ever be FAQ or errata. They're only designed for fun campaign play. Don't try and play them seriously.
Well, they market them as campaign books, don't they?
Well,
so ban them from your own GT. When you run your events that you endorse, don't allow them then.
But what have they done for this year for the GT? As soon as the FAQ came out and says you can't do this, someone put up on the thing, so can you take them to the GT? And they went, yeah, of course you can. Why not?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's completely hypocritical of them. If you're going to be pathetic, Warlord, please be consistently pathetic.
Take Sheffield as an example. He is consistently pathetic.
Consistent flake.
No, it's really hard, because genuinely you do think I could do a better job of this, and I'm not a games designer, and I think the Warlord Bolt Action game is brilliant, and I couldn't have designed that. But when they're releasing stuff that they're not, it's just not good enough that you think you can do a better job. It's just disappointing. I don't want to be thinking that. I want to think, wow, someone's put a lot of thought into this. Not, wow, someone's dossed this off in 20 minutes, which is how I feel reading it. Genuinely, it's upsetting.
It does make me think for the third edition Bolt Action, whenever that drops, is what they genuinely going to do, because all I want from version 3 is just a rule set designed better. Like, I want the exact same rules, but just written better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All I want is the FAQ to be rolled into the rulebook and it all to be like a bit better organised, a bit better referenced, and a bit better explained. The game would
And
be
an
exactly
index.
the same.
Give us an
but-
index.
Yeah, that's all I want. I don't, and obviously I want the points redoing, but that's something separate. In terms of the core mechanical rules themselves, that's all I want. But now I'm going to think, they're going to have all the special stuff and switch to D10s. It's all going to be cool, and it's just going to be the next big hotness. When you're kind of missing the point, and now I'm not even being good at being devil's advocate anymore.
Look, I want to
See,
return
for
to
me-
basics in V3. Just a return to the core things that make it good, refined to a point of good quality, clarity, and then when you release the extra supplements, which we'd very much like you to do, don't contradict those key things, and you won't have any complaints from me.
See, for me, as much as the responsibility is on Warlord as the game's, the owner of the game, I also find that there should be some responsibility put on the community for not sending in a raft of questions that are already answered in the rulebook. The amount of times that even just in our group, somebody goes, "Oh, what's this?" And it's like, "Have you read the rulebook?" And they're like, no, read it."
Yeah, like you're willing to give people a little bit of benefit of the doubt where some things aren't clear, but some things that are abundantly clear, they're the things that are really irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sheffield's already mentioned the multi-launcher FAQ. Every single one of the points that is clarified in the FAQ on multi-launchers is in the rulebook. Every single one. All you have to do is fucking read the rulebook. It's not hard, and then they don't have to spend. I mean, I know Warlord, they might not want to FAQ the campaign books, but if they're not having to FAQ the stuff that is already fucking there, they don't have to waste their time. They can spend it doing something else productive. It just really pisses me off. And people on the Facebook Bolt Action group, they're asking the same questions week in, week out, every single time. It's the same people and the same answers. It's just so annoying.
I have a feel for the patience of Stuart Harrison.
that man, it deserves a medal. For
He's a
the amount
saint.
of, for
He's
the,
an
for the amount
absolute
of rules answers he just comes out.
We don't know if you listen, Stuart, but bravo, mate.
Absolute saint.
There's one thing. So when Age of Sigmar first came out, and 8th Ed was annihilated and dropped from Games Workshop's offerings, I was salty as shit, and I was looking for everything to take the piss out of Age of Sigmar as possible and just rag on it because I was angry. And one thing which I really did jump on was the fact that the FAQ was 5 times longer than the actual 4 pages of rules themselves. And I always used to laugh going, the rules can't be shit if the FAQ is that long. Now with Bolt Action, what are we up to now? 10 pages of FAQ?
Yeah, it's about that.
Like this was 11, so yeah.
Well, 15 pages I've got from the download I've downloaded. 15 pages, you could summarise, obviously drop out a load of the special rules, but you could summarise the rules for Bolt Action in about 10 pages. The key ones, you move, you advance, you run, that kind of thing. So we're getting into that territory now. This FAQ is getting so huge and so bloated. So I don't know what the comment on that is. It's just that's obviously the direction we're going in. What happens when
they need to write these rules. They need to write these rules, and they need to give it to a community, i.e., the Leicester Juggernauts, and they need them to be play tested and just read through the rules, play test them, and just say, as you've written it, this is what we've come up with. These are in scenarios where we're having contradictions or we're not quite sure. Tidy it up. Then once it's all tidied up, you do one final proofread, and then you hit print, and then you're done. And you've not got to worry about releasing FAQs anymore if your rule set is tight.
I wouldn't want them to give the rules just to us, because then the rules would be very.
I was just using us as an example,
They've got
you give it to a few in England, a couple in America. Give it to the captains of the WTC, for instance, and let them and their teams pull it apart.
I was going to say,
see what they come up with.
The network is there of TOs from across the world. Warlord do have those email addresses, so it's just a resource that isn't being utilised.
Well, they've hired Paul now in the UK to be their sort of go-to guy and their representative almost. Yeah, their ambassador. Perfect word. Yeah. And
that's what it is. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, they don't use him and his connections the way they should do. They use him as more of a poster boy and everywhere he goes, he carries a giant warlord flag as if he's ready to plant it on the top of a hill somewhere and claim the land as his own. That they don't use his connections properly.
I think if you go back to the question, is how much responsibility does a games company have in maintaining their game? We're not really sure that you can put a precise figure on that. But when it comes to what does responsibility look like, I think I'll just summarize what we've said. I think there's 4 things. 1, the games company listens to the community. 2, the games company is willing to admit when it's wrong. Again, Warlord doesn't seem to have been doing that. 3, a games company does it briefly and concisely. We don't want massive essays. And 4, it does it to best reflect the different people who play the game. You don't want them to just go to competitive people. You don't want them to just go to historical people. You want a mix of both. And if that's what responsible gaming looks like, then at most that's 1 FAQ a year, really, isn't it? That's all we want. 1 small FAQ a year.
I would say, to answer the philosophical question, is a games company should be as willing to put as much effort into maintaining their game as successful as they want their game to be, if that makes sense. So if they're having a title game this is their game and this is the one they're selling and they want it to be the most popular game ever, they bloody well damn well should put some effort into maintaining that game, because that's how you get people in, that's how you get people playing, that's how you maintain the community. And if you don't do that, sooner or later the game will fall and it will stop being played, stop being popular, and its time will come. It might take a year, it might take 5 years, but unsupported games die, and that's why that's why you don't see people playing games anymore.
Do you agree with this statement? Warlord games are the EA of miniature wargaming.
No.
I mean, it's often that you are wrong, Sheffield, and again, you're wrong.
No.
I mean, the community knows that, the community as a whole knows that a lot of people are leaving Games Workshop games for a number of reasons. The price of models, the rules coming out too fast to be able to keep up, stuff like that. All of these people are flocking to Warlord and to play bolt action. There are so many new players coming to the system now; it is unreal. Warlord need to realise that and need to get their act together, because those people, if they come in and they see what a shitstorm it is at the minute, they're just going to go, well, it's clearly not well maintained, clearly not looked after. I'm going to play Malifaux and War Machine and stuff like that and just not care anymore.
Any final points?
I think we've hit it all.
I think we need to get more fun. We're having too many serious topics, guys. Too many serious topics. Are you all ragged out?
I did tell you I was going to do it. No, I'm ragged out.
Okay, he's all ragged out. Cool, let's go.
Hello, silly, and welcome to Mr. Blubber's Hobby Lobby.
Dear Jesus, what is going on?
This is Gollum, and we're doing lots of paintings and shit, so shut up, you stupid fat hobbitses.
Oi, Gollum, go throw yourself in Mount Doom, you pleb.
Stupid fat hobbitses.
You're one of the fat hobbitses.
I'm the fattest of all. I'm the fattest
Can I
of
make
all the
a
hobbits.
special request? Can you go back to Mexican?
See?
See, that's acceptable.
Gracias.
Oh no. Why?
At least the Gollum one's kind of alright, and it's not offending anyone.
But you've got a lot in common with Gollum, though, haven't you? Like, you're both lusting after rings.
Both balding.
Hang around with lots of short men.
But both eventually get what they want. Oh,
And then burn to death.
Totally worth it. Or the two of the most hated men in their respective universes. Yeah. Anyway, hobby. How are we doing this month?
Well, we were a bit busy with the WTC.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we're recording this quite early because we've got so much shit to talk about. We've not had a full month since last episode. It's only at the time of recording 2 weeks ago. So yeah, in terms of hobby pledges, I think we're going to give ourselves an amnesty this month.
Yeah, I mean, we all have made progress, but I mean, I've got half of the stuff I need to do my pledge for the bases, but Warlord haven't delivered the other half yet. It's in the post at the minute, but because they've had so many sales with the sprue sale, they're just a bit slow getting it out.
Can I just say, I built like 4 tankettes, so I did my pledge.
It must have been really hard gluing them to the base and then putting a turret in a hole.
Yeah, but the thing is, once I built my tankettes, I then had to like go around the house and get loads of little small objects to compare them in size. Yes, including my penis, before you bloody make that obvious joke. So things like pennies, like things like teaspoons, just take pictures next to my tank with all of them, just to compare, because it's so diddy and so tiny.
They are ridiculously small.
They're great. I've got 4 of them now. So I just can't wait to get my Polish already, just so I could use my tankettes. Brum brum.
They look like you've scaled down Cartman when he rides his tricycle dressed as the policeman.
God damn it, Carl!
Respect my authority. But yeah, so that's my hobby pledge. Sheffield, you didn't make a pledge last month, you wanker.
No, but I've done lots. So I've built and base coated all of my SS, and I've managed to paint a decent amount of it. I've painted my commander, I've painted a sniper team, I've painted a Panzerschreck team, I painted that test cavalry model that I'm really happy with, and I've done the base colours on 2 squads. So I've made a pretty solid dent in that.
Ew.
Yeah, but you still missed last podcast, so
You missed last
still
podcast,
failed.
so you failed.
I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for having a job and important commitments.
That's no excuse. Did you at least listen to the episode so you found out what your punishment is?
It was very hard to listen. You were all very mean about me.
I like how hurt you sound.
Where is your god now, Sheffield?
It's all faint hurt. I wasn't really at home crying into a cheeseburger that I microwaved.
Hey, you share the experience of all of the Juggernaut podcast listeners now.
Oh, that's completely savage.
Crying into a microwave.
No,
Like,
as in,
what?
no, as in they listen to us and they just hate the shit that we say.
No, that's not what he meant, guys. He's calling you all
Sad
fat,
losers.
lazy, sad losers who live at home with your mum, microwaving your meals.
Hey,
I
mate,
live with your mum, Sheffield.
I can't throw stones in glass houses, is all I'm going to say. So, Pete, what you been up to?
Well, since this is a little early, I've got base coated models. I've got models with the base colours there. There's no details though.
So that's fully completed then, is it, Pete?
No. Unlike flipping Sheffy 12 layers over here.
If that was Topher's models, he'd just cover the whole thing in PVA glue, dip it in baking soda, and then boom, snow theme.
Hey, speaking of covering whole models in PVA glue, dipping it in baking soda, then dumb, has anyone been as excited as the internet about Games Workshop's new offerings in the land of painting? The contrast paints they're launching.
I've never seen a bigger buzz until they said since they've said we're going to release Plastic Sisters of Battle.
It's like
Yeah.
it's actually kind of shocking how excited everyone's got. Even people who don't play Games Workshop games have got over this paint set thing. They advertising it as one thick coat, which suits me down to the ground. None of this thin coat bullshit. None of this wet palette shit. All these people who think they can paint. Fuck it. No, let's dip the bastard. That's what I want out of my painting style.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think it's the paint equivalent of fake tan. And I think you're going to look at a model that's got a real tan because it's been on holiday, and a model that's got a fake tan from a can, and you're going to look at them, and it's going to be the same. I reckon you're going to look at a model that's been done nicely and a model that's been done by you with contrast paints, and you're going to go, I know which one of these is the fake one.
Are you saying my models are going to give me cancer?
Well, I'm just saying I will not be buying the GW contrast paints until Topher has bought them and painted his units, and then I will make a decision based on that.
Don't do that.
Because
Hey,
I
man.
like the idea of them.
You'll be judging my shit paint style.
Yeah, but these are supposed to be paints for everyone. Just paint a thick layer on, paint the eyes, and you're done. That's what it should be.
So I saw the way these paints apparently work. Although a few people who went to Games Day or Warhammer Fest or whatever it's called now got to try them out. And the way it works is the paint is like semi-translucent, and the pigment within the paint there's various sizes. So all the smaller pigments are like darker, and they flow into the crevices better. So like you naturally paint one coat, and does all your highlights and shading for you effectively in a single coat.
I was talking to the guys at my local Black Dragon only yesterday. I was talking to Gary, and he was saying that actually the stuff that's in them, the paint technology, is exactly the same as what they've used to make the gemstone paints that they've done. And I've been using those a lot recently, and I really like them. They're really good. Because you paint them over silver, essentially. You paint them over a really light color, and they do the gradiated shading for you, and they're really effective. I've been really impressed with those. So if it is as impressive as that, I'll be very excited by it. But at the same time, I don't think doing that is enough to satisfy me. So they will just become part of my painting toolkit rather than an excuse for doing actual painting, which is, I worry, what a lot of people who should know better. Yes, you.
I really worry for these, because the way they bill it is you put a thick layer of this on, and then when you let it dry, you still need to layer your highlights and stuff on it. Well, if you're putting such a thick layer on, do you lose all the detail of the model, and then you won't be able to put the layers and the dry brush and stuff afterwards? Or is it just easier to paint the base layer nice and thin and then build it up as you go like you would normally do?
I think it's like a good painter's thick layer rather than a 10-year-old's poster paint thick layer.
It's not a
it's not dipping.
Sheffield thing.
Yeah, it's not dipping it. I think it's just you do it straight from the pot.
Be generous,
it's not
rather than doing
army
it out
painter.
Yeah. But
we like
thing...
Aggressive Sound Shade though, and I'm quite excited that it means that the first few layers that you normally like, oh, I've got to get this right, it's going to be so much quicker.
As long as they've got nice darker colours that you could use it in World War II, because the last thing you want is to paint your like Pete's SNLF force using Beal Tan Green, and everyone comes out looking like a striking scorpion.
Or bright pink US Marines, right?
Yeah.
They do have like between browns, blacks, and greys, like 8 bolt actiony shades. I counted, so because there's the ones I'm going to buy. Because
it'd be interesting if you could mix them together as well. So if you could use the darker colours to dull down things like the green.
I did try mixing the gemstone paints, and they do mix, but you have to put a painting medium into them. So I tried to make a purple by mixing the red and blue gemstone paints, and you could only do it by adding a medium, and you lose some of the thickness. So I'm not sure how easily they'll mix.
I mean, I'm looking at all my Polish cavalry right now, and I'm thinking I've always been bad at painting horses. But those contrast paints, I just buy like 4 or 5 different shades of
brilliant
brown
at going down on them.
So good. But yeah, just buy 4 or 5 different contrast paints. Just one layer them.
Yeah. I'm worried that I'm sounding like a paint elitist, but actually
you are a paint elitist.
But no, I'm genuinely not. I'm really excited.
You genuinely are.
Because, well, only because like you two are slackers who that's Pete and Toph, who don't try hard enough, but who are quite capable. So I'm annoyed with you for being lazy, not for being bad painters, because you're both good painters when you're not lazy. Anyway, that's not what I was trying to say. It was that I'm excited by these because it will mean that I can paint very quickly things that I really don't enjoy painting.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
much as I love playing bolt action miniatures are one of those things.
Yeah, if these can be used to combine your base coat, first dry brush, and then your shading into one layer, and then you just put the layer coat on top of it, and that's it, and it looks as good as it would do normally, I'm all for these paints. But I'm in Camp Sheffield with I like to do the 8 layers and build it up that way and make it look proper.
Because I would say these.
Hang on, no, I'm calling BS on that. You've got an airbrush.
Yeah.
8
That's
layers.
only for the tanks.
No, I tell you what, this is the thing. My infantry may look like better than anybody else's here, but Dan's tanks look better than my tanks. In fact, Toph's do as well, because I cannot paint tanks to save my life.
It's because you refuse to just dry brush the fucker. That's why.
No, dry brushing is for cheaters.
You tried to edge highlight freaking Shermans. It's awful.
They look like Land Raiders.
It's when you catch him painting skulls and purity seals on them and go, that's your problem, mate. But I actually think these paints are better suited to bolt action than they are to like 40k and Sigmar, because like if a lot of bolt action models, if you're like looking at infantrymen, you know, a German infantryman, he's basically just grey. Like a British infantryman, he's basically just brown. So there's not actually as much detail to pick up. So the contrast paints will just do all of that detail for you. So you don't have to keep going back and trying to find and highlight things that don't necessarily exist. Whereas in 40, because Sigmar and 40k is so stylized, it's just like, well, you know where to highlight a Space Marine because it's really obvious. It's just the edge of the armor. Whereas like a bolt action, you know, infantryman, it's a bit more fluid. It's not as obvious. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on them.
I love the use of the words simple and stylized to mean crap at quality. Which is...
I mean, you can't say the Games Workshop models are crap quality. You can say many things about them, but you can't say crap quality.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that their quality and the plastic, some of the Warlord plastics are crap. Is what I'm saying.
Well, not really. I mean, like the new Desert Rats infantry in the Africa Corps, really nice. It's just the actual models they're trying to represent, because Games Workshop aren't like tied to reality in any way, so they can make, you know, these big Space Marines who are huge.
Skulls on a leg pad for a laugh.
Well, the Warlord stuff is that they're a victim of their own success, aren't they? They're selling lots of models. You have to produce slightly better quality, and they're getting the money now to be able to do that, and it's fueling itself now. So it's only going to get better from them for the infantry, I think.
The thing is how good do you want the models to be? Because you can't make a model which doesn't look like the infantryman it's trying to represent.
Oh, I know. I was kind of taking a cheap shot for no good reason.
And I'm calling you out for it.
Sir, you've been called out.
Just because you've been sagging on my painting, mates. You can fuck off.
I decided to take the shot at
Warlord. Army
quicker
than you do.
So I wouldn't have to point it at more of your army. But we can go that way if you want to go that way.
It's fine. It'd just be nice, Sheffield, for you to open an army box which is actually painted.
Oh!
Don't ever say that Sheffield can't paint camo, because when he opens his box of foam and the foam's all grey and the models inside are all grey undercoat, I can't literally see those models. It's the best camo in the world.
Yeah, so we all played a game of Warlords of Everyone on Tuesday, didn't we? And we had a great time. We played some of the advanced rules with the bound monsters and the dragons and all that sort of shit. And Sheffield's army, he played dwarves, and because so little of it is painted, it could have been quarrelers, it could have been pig riders. I don't have a fucking clue.
I hope you're joking. That army is one of the most painted armies I've got. It was very nearly half painted.
Your eight crossbowmen, were they painted?
No.
Were half of your hammerers painted?
Yes, and those half-painted hammerers still looked better than your sodding elves.
Fuck you, my stuff looks great. My Marathi is fantastic.
I'm not dissing the Marathi. The Marathi is excellent.
Dan's had his witch elves in that form for about maybe a year now. You've had your dwarves for as long as I've fucking known you.
Right. This won't come across in the actual podcast record, but I'm leaving the chat channel now.
It's like a Thunderhawk, but with Sheffield, it's dwarves.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So, what are we doing for next month? Pledge. Well, are we doing pledges because we haven't completed the... Are we going to save pledges for next month?
We'll save pledges for next episode because we're going to have... Well, because of our tournament, we're going to have quite a big group pledge, aren't we?
It's going to be terrain, basically. We've got some big orders coming in from a few suppliers we've dropped pennies on. So, yeah, I think that's going to be coming up. Haven't we got like 3 or 4 boards worth of just ruins to build?
It's about 400 quid's worth of ruins coming in. It's about what did I say? It's about 20 buildings and about 80 odd ruins. So it's going to be enough to furnish quite a lot of boards, hopefully. The idea is we want to build a proper Stalingrad board, don't we? And we want to have it as dense as a proper city fight board should be. And this will go a long way to doing that.
I love painting terrain. There's nothing that lends itself towards my time-consuming and patient and perfectionist style than painting ruined buildings.
And there's nothing that leads itself better to Toast style of spraying it grey, dry brushing it a lighter grey with one of the paint brushes from your toolbox, and being finished.
I will say,
It's not finished then. You've got to wash the thing in Agrax Earthshade.
Wilco's paint, emulsion is perfect for painting terrain. Can I just say? You get your little tester pots for about £1.50, and they'll do a ball's worth of terrain. Mwah, perfect.
Yeah.
But we'll have to do some sessions. We'll have to order some pizza or descend on Pete's living room or something. And
Yeah, that sounds good.
do some hobby sessions.
Yeah, man. Gangbang at my place.
Woo!
And then we'll do terrain afterwards.
Yeah. Good job. The walls are already the right colour.
You're a disgrace.
Shall we
I'm the
leave?
best disgrace.
Okay, once we've done jizzing on Pete's walls,
Oh.
any final words to close the podcast with? Sheffield, are you suitably all salted, or do you need to get some diabetes medicine?
No, I'm quite good. My blood sugar level is low. I'm ready to go to bed. I'm quite happy. Might go and take a big dump first.
And I am all for taking Sheffield off of probation. He's been here.
Yeah. Please keep applying though for the 4th Juggernaut host position, because we can always do better. We can always do better. And on that note, I'm going to bid you all good night.
Or, as they say in Poland, dobry wieczór.
Was that actually right?
Good evening.
No
yes.
idea.
Fuck
Oh,
me.
wow.
See you later, sillies.
Oh,
Bye.
boy, Gollum.
Blobby, blobby, blobby!